Americans. Reporters spoke to citizens to get their view on the study.
Clearly, this chipmunk is pretty impressive. I mean, he wakes up every morning and says, I need to collect acorns and berries for the winter. He sets goals for himself and he gets it done.
He has to make a burrow in a tree stump. That's exactly what he does. He doesn't pause and have a snack and lay around for a few hours.
Out of nearly 40 separate interviews with Americans, 33 told reporters they were very impressed by the chipmunk's continued display of foresight, personal responsibility, and pragmatic decision-making when considering his own future.
He's preparing for winter, he's building a home, and he's trying to get enough nutrients to make it throughout the rest of the day. All this while being worried about maybe getting eaten by a wolf or an owl or something. Earlier this week, the electricity went off in my home because I forgot to pay my bill. It's the second time this year.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Liberty at Night with Nate and Charlie on the Free Talk Live Network, coming at you live from Nashville, Tennessee. How's it going today, Chuck?
I'm still drumming, man.
Yeah, I like it.
Music City here.
Today is Liberty at Night, by the way, but normally we're Good Morning Liberty. But, okay, this is not a dumb bleep of the week.
It's just Dumb Tuesday.
But if I were to say, here's the first thing we are talking about, and there are 9 of them. But I don't know if we're going to vote because I didn't mean for this to be a dumb bleep of the week. I just knew that this was our last live episode of the week and that I should throw in a bunch of stuff that I've been emailing myself over the weekend and all that.
Curating this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I don't want to waste all this. This is actually kind of good news. This year of our Lord 2023, is the least productive Congress since the Great Depression.
Amen.
I mean, I had no idea things were that good. That's amazing. Congress has only written 21 laws this year.
That's 21 too many.
Yeah, I thought this was good news. Why'd they do 21? On pace to be the least productive gathering of lawmakers since the Great Depression, as members draw more headlines for confrontations than public policy making. With only 21 bills making it into law halfway into November, the 118th Congress, controlled by Republicans in the House and Democrats, and the Senate is the most sluggish pace to make laws since the Congress that met during 1931 and 32.
Amen.
Back then, Herbert Hoover, the vacuum guy, was president. The Great Depression had started, and talking movies were still new. Representative Chip Roy, part of a group in the House that has stopped several spending bills from advancing to the Senate, saw his frustration boil over on the House floor Wednesday. Quote, "One thing I want my Republican colleagues to give me, one that I can go campaign on and say we did." I think saying that you did nothing is about the best thing that you could say.
Yeah.
Why do you need to, like, oh, here, look.
Go on the campaign trail.
Here's a list of rights I took away this year. Why are you going to do that?
Go on the campaign trail and just be like, we did absolutely nothing.
And that is the best thing you could have done.
Then just quote our founding fathers. The best government is that which governs least.
Now, on the flip side, I guess
you just be like, we took least to Great Depression levels.
Mm-hmm. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to one of your Coke cans over there is blocking the text. You got a nice stack over there. You got, what do you got? 6, 9, 10. 10 cans. Mm-hmm. And they're 10 cans.
They are, and I'm working on one.
You got 10 cans over there. Yeah. How about that? Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done, well, I think that thing is stopping Congress from doing things. The lack of productivity puts a punctuation mark on the first half of a Congress that has managed to do the bare minimum. Fund the government.
Except for get rid of democracy. Yeah. That's what they've mainly been working on.
Fund the government, raise the debt ceiling while also embarrassing itself with the first ever ouster of a House Speaker mid-session, a subsequent 3-week-long search for a new one, and most recently a threatened fight between a senator and a committee witness, which I wanted to see play out, but it didn't happen. The center of the embarrassment has been the GOP-controlled House, which has struggled to pass anything of consequence with its razor-thin 4-seat Republican majority. The Senate, meanwhile, has been content to deal with the rare legislation the House sends over while grasping for bipartisan deals on immigration and aid to Ukraine. Isn't it great to see our system work? You know, they got to wait for the House to send stuff over. They're not sending stuff over. That's amazing.
Checks and balances.
I like that. maybe the Republicans are doing something right, and that something is nothing. Okay, well, that was the first thing. This is not a dumb bleep, but here's the second thing that we're going to talk about today. And did you see over the weekend that the Mark Johnson, the Speaker of the House, released all of the January 6th footage, like on the website? We could go and download every single video of every single security camera
Does
footage.
the Speaker of the House have that power?
Yeah, they can release it. That's one of the things that Kevin McCarthy said he was going to do, and he ended up just releasing it to Tucker Carlson. And that's one of the things that people were upset about.
Because Tucker Carlson paid him some money?
So Mike Johnson, I don't know how that happened. Mike Johnson came in and it's all on a website. You can go download all of it. And what we saw was more, it turns out we saw all of the we've seen all the violent clips. Okay, we've seen those plenty of times. We lost several good windows that day. Okay, that definitely happened. But then there were a lot of other ones where they were basically police giving people escorts around the building and things like that. People taking pictures and taking selfies and all that. So anyway, Charlie, from Lindy Lee.
All right, she tweets, Mike Johnson still seems fake.
Yeah, I don't think he's a real guy. He's an AI-generated guy, I think.
Just released thousands of hours of J6 footage to manipulate us into thinking the coup was peaceful.
Now, here's how you manipulate someone, Charlie.
Release all the footage.
You give them all the information.
Yeah.
You don't put any spin on anything whatsoever. You just give everyone a link to download all the videos.
Yeah. But
that's manipulation.
Lindy says this is right out of the fascist playbook. That's what Hitler did.
They were known for their transparency.
Mussolini went around releasing video footage in Italy back in 42 or something like that, I think.
Well, who can forget all the security footage that was released of the Reichstag fire?
That's right. They distort the truth and call you crazy for doubting their highly curated version of events.
They didn't curate. They released all of it. The other version was curated.
Do not fall for their propaganda.
Propaganda. The version we have is highly curated.
Yeah.
It's only the violent clips taken and played on repeat. This is a completely non-curated version of events. This isn't propaganda because it's every single video from the day.
Lindy Lee is Delulu.
Delulu.
That's what's happening
As
right
the
now.
kids say.
How bad does it have to be to where you gaslight yourself? Like you write a tweet to gaslight yourself to be like, they're saying that they're telling me the truth, or actually they're releasing everything and not saying anything. This has to be propaganda. So I need to tweet about it and convince myself that I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. Yeah.
That's what propaganda is these days. You release every single bit of recorded information and let the people decide completely on their own. That's propaganda if I ever saw it. Let's talk about the Israel thing real quick. People are coming after Thomas Massie because he doesn't want to give Israel your money. Thomas Massie, this is the third thing. It's not dumb bleep number 3, but this is the third thing that we're talking about today. Why does Israel historically get more foreign aid than any other country? Because they have the most aggressive lobbyists working for them. I voted not to send another $14.3 billion overseas, so now they're running ads on radio, TV, and Facebook. I won't vote to give them your money. And so now they're running all these campaign ads against Thomas Massie, of course. I guess he's like a Hamas sympathizer or something. But at the end of the day, he just to put his name on there, what he's saying is that someone should put a gun to your head, take money out of your wallet, and give it to people in a different country.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know?
And he's like, I don't want to do that.
He's like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's bad. So some of the, I was going to say dumb, but this is not dumb bleep of the week, but this is part of the ridiculous nature of the third thing we were talking about today. The top comment on here, Rodster, says, you seem to have a blasé attitude when it comes to Israel. Israel is the steward of the holiest land on earth. It's the place where baby Jesus was born. It cannot fall into the hands of ISIS terrorists who will destroy it all if they have the chance to. You can't treat it like it's just a run-of-the-mill country. It's not. We, along with the other Western countries, have a moral obligation to protect her. There are plenty of much lower priority things that our money is being wasted on. Focus on those things. You can cut spending and protect Israel at the same time. All right. So
hang on. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, which is on the West Bank.
Ooh, that's problematic.
Let's see. I'm pretty sure.
Of course, that's all Israel to what are known today as Zionists, and I'm not making any political statement about that.
Territory? No, this is sectioned off. This is in Palestine, right? Yeah. Yeah, they carved out Jerusalem.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the lines here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure right now it's in Palestine.
T-Dub said, which was Rome at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway.
All Caesars.
Aside from whether or not he was factually accurate about it being the birthplace of baby Jesus, let's say it was the birthplace of baby Jesus, and that's all Israel. I'm pretty sure grown-up Jesus doesn't need us to protect the place that he was born. I don't think we need tens of thousands of dead people so we could plant a flag of man's government on the birthplace of where he was born a couple thousand years ago.
And we don't need to steal people's money.
Yeah.
And give to...
Like, is that what Jesus had to do? Take money from this person who's struggling to pay their bills so you can protect the place I was born over 2,000 years ago and kill thousands of people in the process? Is that what Jesus said?
Well, that was the lost commandments.
Okay. The lost commandment. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
My bad.
It was the ark of war that God had laid out. If we're going to make arguments about protecting Israel, I'm sorry, I want no religious arguments about it. There are so many religions in the world, and I'm not going to pick one and say that that's what other countries do. Like, that's what some of the Islamic terrorists do. Like, they pick a religion and then they're going to die for this religion. Okay, now, I don't think that we need to be picking Christianity and say that we're going to wage war and billions of dollars and tens of thousands of lives to protect a place that someone was born a couple thousand years ago. And you know what? He's Jesus. If he wants it cleared out when he comes back, he can probably hit a button and get that taken care of. You know, he can zap all them out to left behind land and get all these people out of there and just come back. Like, he doesn't need our help, folks. All right? We got to take care of other people. Israel's already a rich nation.
Yeah.
And their financial situation is better.
Yeah. Thomas Massey says this is not a parody account. And this guy says, I didn't figure that you would get it. It's just about money with you. Yeah, it's his job.
Rod, how about you send your money? If you believe in this so strongly, send your money. No one's stopping you from doing that.
How about this? How about your church? You get everyone together in your church and you guys start an army. And all of you guys go over there and start fighting to protect Bethlehem. Go do it.
Yeah.
There's no reason that the U.S. government
which is
has
in
people
Palestine,
to do that.
by the way.
Just go do it.
So,
okay, that's the third thing. This is the fourth thing. Just a real quick one. Rob
Reiner, he X's out. If you vote for anyone but Joe Biden, you're not black. No, sorry, he didn't say that. He said if you vote for anyone but Joe Biden, you are voting to destroy American democracy. That's it.
It checks out. That's
again, this is all religion to them. If you're not with me, you're against me. Like, Joe Biden is Jesus to the Democrats right now.
The answer, you know what? We should postpone the election to protect democracy.
We should. I
think we should. It's working out in Ukraine. You know, that's how they're going to do it. And
we're at proxy war right now. And it's too dangerous when we're at proxy wars.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Multiple proxy wars.
We have declared proxy war.
Yeah.
All right. That's just a real fast one. That's a fun one. This is the fifth thing that we will talk about today.
Just number them. You're trying to...
It's not Dumb Bleep of the Week.
This is number 5.
I can't number them. It's not Dumb Bleep of the Week. Here's a video of a guy protecting himself and his family in California.
Oh, I saw this.
In L.A. All right. So why is this on here? We shall see here in just a second. I'll make sure the volume... I don't know if there is any sound. Let's see. Nope, no sound on this one anyway. So you see robbers come up behind him. He pulls out a gun and shoots at the guys that are trying to rob him. You see them. That's where they come up from this camera angle. And he pulls out a gun and starts shooting them. They have guns also, by the way. He shoots at them and they get away. Okay, so here are two armed robbers, or one armed robber. Is that That's the actual guy there?
Yeah.
Sorry. An armed robber, I don't know how many, comes up to the guy. His family is at home, tries to rob him when he's coming home, and he pulls out a gun to protect himself. Seems like a pretty good Second Amendment case if I've ever seen one right there. So as you would expect, this guy had his concealed carry permit taken away by the LAPD.
Jesus.
California man Vince Ritchie, who defended his family from 2 robbers at his home, has been stripped of his concealed carry permit. Let's see. We just talked about the video. Ritchie had a concealed carry permit, which saved his home from being robbed and potentially the lives of his family. Unfortunately, the sheriff's department in LA has stripped the permit away because Ritchie, that he is assuming right now, they haven't actually said why, because he yelled at the LAPD when they came to investigate. There's a story about this from the LA Times, and no one has actually confirmed why it got taken away. Of course, the LA Times talks about Ritchie becoming a poster child for the Second Amendment, appearing on Fox News and all that. And then he appeared in the NRA video afterwards. And according to the LAPD, which stressed on social media that the department had neither issued nor revoked Ritchie's permit, so it wasn't the LAPD. The attempted robbery occurred at 7:30 p.m. in the 400 block of Plymouth Boulevard. He was not injured, and police said it was unclear whether the assailants were injured from gunfire. So there were 2 people. The 2 people who jumped over a wall in the Ritchie's home, and a third man believed to be a driver, are still at large. In an email statement, the LA County Sheriff's Department confirmed that Ritchie's permit, which the department issued, had been suspended, but added that the department had been in contact with him and his family about permit protocols. There are avenues for Mr. Ritchie to reapply for his permit.
Oh, so he let it expire.
It expired right after.
Yeah.
He used it. Maybe there's a rule like there is with like with a cop. They shoot someone and they investigate, make sure it was a clean shot. You go through
shot. What officer do you know makes a shot? They usually unload about 4 or 5 clips.
4 or 5 clips. Yeah.
That have 100 rounds inside of them.
I let my concealed carry expire because we have constitutional carry, but the problem is now that doesn't carry over to other states. Your concealed carry in Tennessee would be recognized by most of the states that allow people to carry guns
until like 2028 or something like that.
Yeah, mine expired and I let it go. I was like, oh no, we got constitutional carry, and then I realized, well, now when I go out of state, technically I can't carry unless they also have constitutional carry in that state. Oh. So maybe I should get that re-upped. I don't know. Here's something, and we'll have a Jordan Peterson video to accompany this. This would be the 6th thing that we are talking about today. From Marcia Ranglin Vassal. Charlie, what does she have to say?
Dear white people.
Everyone listen.
If you want to disrupt and dismantle systemic racism, maybe you should start yourself by just not addressing a certain group of people. Is that not racist? Dear white people?
Well, I mean, talking to anyone who's white,
what?
Is
there a world where I could tweet, Dear black people?
Oh, sure. You might get banned afterwards.
I know.
There's a world. Yeah.
If you want to disrupt and dismantle systemic racism, sometimes you'll have to give up your seat at the table to let a historically marginalized black, brown, or indigenous person sit. Are you willing to do that? Sincerely, Mar. She said with all due sincerity.
With
sincerity.
So to dismantle racism, you must lose your seat at the table because of your race and give it to another person because of their race.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll dismantle racism.
Yeah.
After doing that.
It's the whole fight fire with fire thing, man.
I guess.
Yeah.
The way it makes sense.
The way to dismantle racism is with racism.
Mm-hmm. That's how you do it. The only way it makes sense is when you think about how people think about our society, which is through the lens of a power struggle, oppressor versus oppressed. Because what this person
This is how you summed up Israel and Palestine, by the way, which I think Jordan Peterson stole from you.
I think he did. Yeah. He took that right from me.
This is his first time mentioning this in this video. I saw this video. It's good.
But he mentions kind of our culture also. And the way that this makes sense to this person is that the only reason the white person had the seat, let's say it's a board, the only reason the white person had that is because they are white. And that's why they have it. And so any position of power that a white person has, they have by their virtue of being white. And so therefore it makes it okay.
By sheer brute force.
Yeah, it makes it okay to take that away from them because they only got it because they're white.
They didn't earn it.
And so if you're going to fix that, well, then you would give it to someone else because they're black. So that makes sense if you see that the world is like that, but it's not always like, sometimes it's like that. Sure, it's been like that in the past, of course. It could be like that in certain places and certain businesses or whatever, but it's not always like that. Sometimes it's because that person was better than the other person. Maybe they were the best person to sit in that chair, you know? And so then you were doing something bad to fix something that you thought was bad. And here's Jordan Peterson talking about.
And if you don't like chairs, you can get a standing desk.
Yeah, you could do that too.
Yeah.
Is there room to stand? It's healthier anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
But what happens is that they are then saying that being oppressed is being
if the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Well, this is the main issue. I mean, part of the reason that you see all this foolishness on university campuses too is because people have bought this idiot meta-Marxism, which is that the way to look at every social relationship that people ever have is through the lens of power. And that is, we can put that squarely at the feet of the universities, as far as I'm concerned, is, marriage is a patriarchal institution and business is nothing but oppression. And you have to view every single situation that emerged historically as oppressor versus oppressed. And then once you get that, which you can get in about 2 minutes if you sit in a course that teaches that sort of thing, you have a lens to moralize about the whole world through. And then you see the situation is that the leftists have already decided the Palestinians are the victims. And as you pointed out, if you're a victim, then you're morally righteous. And even more conveniently, if you stand for the victim, then you're morally righteous, regardless of what you do with your own life. And that's pretty much what university students are taught from the time they enter the university classroom. And that's how they, orient themselves morally. And that's at the hands of the radical left, too, Bill. And one of the things the Democrats also have to pay the price for, I would say, is their absolute refusal to draw a line between the moderate Democrats and the extremists. They're completely incapable of doing that. Like, I've talked to 40 senators and congressmen in the last 5 years. I asked them all the same question, including RFK. He wouldn't answer either. When does the left go too far? Well, we certainly bloody well saw it in the last month, didn't we? Because they got the oppressive narrative a little mucked up, we might say. And the consequences of that are going to unfold pretty brutally over the next few months.
That's a cool purple suit.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like that little, is that like what is that? What do you call that thing that old ladies put on their, on their collar?
I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the suit itself. Yeah. It's a cool purple. It's interesting.
You want to get yourself a purple suit?
Maybe. I feel like I could rock a purple suit.
What if you end up looking like the Joker or something?
That'd be fine with that.
Looking like the Joker?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I look like Heath Ledger, be fine with that.
What if you look like Joaquin Phoenix? I mean, he was kind of crazy. Dude, are you going to go see Napoleon?
I am.
This weekend or this week?
I feel like we should go watch it together, but you're probably...
I don't know
you're
if
not going to wait.
I might, yeah.
No.
I mean, I want to see it in IMAX. So if it's going to be in the IMAX over at Opryland, then...
It is.
Okay. Yeah, we need to go see it for sure.
70 millimeters.
The movie looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm pumped about it.
I hope it's good.
Anyway, okay, so that's
what I was thinking, Dan. I'm more of the Barney purple suit. That's what I'm going for. Yeah.
Thank you for great money-saving ideas. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Among recent suggestions submitted to the blog, double-check your checking and bank accounts for those trial subscriptions and memberships that have become permanent if you don't cancel them, which many, possibly most, don't or forget to. You may not have noticed small automatic payments. 2 energy-saving tips for the kitchen. If you cover and wrap foods in the fridge, you will prevent moisture from escaping and ask less of the compressor. Use plastic wrap, not aluminum foil. And you should only run the dishwasher when it's full. Several who posted are selling their gently used clothing online at Poshmark or Depop, DEPOP.com. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks on the blog at andyoucanquoteme.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Reports suggest that a deal to release around 50 hostages held in Gaza has been reached. The agreement will see a multi-day ceasefire in return for Hamas releasing Israeli and international hostages. Both the US and Israel say they expect to provide more details and good news soon. US State Department spokesman Matthew Miller addressed the current talks.
We are very close to an agreement, but we are not there yet. As you have heard us say a number of times over the course of the past few weeks, nothing is final until everything is final. And at this point, everything is not yet final, but we are close. We are hopeful to have some good news for the hostages and their families. We're hopeful we can start bringing some of them home.
US President Joe Biden says counter-narcotics cooperation between the US and China was a top deliverable out of the talks with President Xi Jinping. Speaking on Tuesday, Biden said it's an important step to curb the flow of fentanyl into the United States. Biden and Xi met during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit last week. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
During their meeting in San Francisco, President Joe Biden says he and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to work together to stem the flow of deadly opioid fentanyl. Biden told a meeting on Tuesday that he has made important progress during the meeting with Xi, with China having already taken steps to shut down companies dealing in the illicit trade of the precursor chemicals. The US president says the influx of fentanyl is a global challenge that demands global action. He has also called on Congress to pass his budget request that includes more funding at the US southern border, as the finished product usually comes across the border into the US.
Elon Musk has sued Media Matters for America, accusing the non-profit of trying to drive advertisers from the social media platform X. It comes after the advocacy group accused the site, formerly known as Twitter, of posting adverts alongside anti-Semitic content. FSN's William Denslow reports from New York.
The lawsuit alleges that Media Matters knowingly manufactured images to show ads next to white nationalist and neo-Nazi content. The suit claims that this was part of a strategy intended to drive advertisers away from X. A number of firms, including Disney, IBM and Apple, have halted ads on the social media site since Media Matters conducted its analysis. The non-profit describes itself as an information centre that monitors and corrects conservative misinformation in US media.
The minutes from the US Federal Reserve's last meeting give no indication that the central bank is preparing to cut interest rates. Details show that officials remain concerned that inflation could still increase. They expect to keep policies in place in an attempt to get inflation down to the Fed's goal of 2%. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
We're back, Liberty Night with Nate and Charlie. Let's get back into the conversation before the break. You can't look at any. Also, you can't look at any disproportionate outcome. Like, let's say that there's more white people than black people at the table, and let's assume it's some kind of board. You can't just say that that's also systemic racism. That could also be proportionate to the population, or maybe the proportionate to the community that people are in, or maybe there just happened to be more white people that were highly proficient in whatever that was, and those 9, however many people are at the board, there were 9 white people that were better than the best black person was at that, you know? And that's how you can end up with a disproportionate outcome, but it doesn't mean it was racism.
There are white people fighting this, though. I mean, you have to commend Tony Romo for giving up his quarterback spot to Dak Prescott.
One of the all-time great moves, just
now,
giving that up.
He probably should give up his seat next to Jim Nantz now, you know,
and all his money.
Yeah, because he's probably taken someone else's seat there.
He went from being my favorite commentator to, honestly, I think he's one of the worst out there. These days.
I feel like they're holding him back.
They are,
which is annoying.
I think it's because of the betting market. All right, let's go on to the, which number would this be? 7th thing that we are talking about today. Yesterday, Charlie, as I'm sure you have marked down on your calendar, I'm so sick of all the days, by the way. You know, I'm sick of every day.
I'm buying a cake every day.
Every day is a day for something. Okay.
I have so much cake left over from all these days that I've been celebrating.
Had the Day of Remembrance like 8 times this year. And then we got...
Didn't we have a whole month in June?
There's like Native American Heritage something month or day or whatever on Friday that they clearly stuck right after Thanksgiving.
You know what days you don't have? Anything celebrating white men.
Charlie, that's every day. Okay. That's what someone would say. Back to that. I'm just saying, look at your calendar.
All right.
You put the notifications like up at the top of your phone, put a widget on there. Mm-hmm. Every day it's got some kind of dumb name.
All right. Karen Jean-Pierre tweets and said,
Karine, come on.
Oh, I thought it was Karen. Today on Transgender Day of Remembrance, we grieve the 26 transgender Americans who were killed this year. Year after year, we see that these victims are disproportionately black women and women of color.
Got a video associated with this as well.
Man.
So we got to pay attention to this. It's disproportionate outcomes for something. And the people, these are specifically people that are trans. And so she has words to say about this.
Now, today on Transgender Day of Remembrance, we grieve the 26 transgender Americans who were killed this year. Year after year, we see that these victims are disproportionately black women and women of color. No one should face violence, live in fear, or be discriminated against simply for being themselves. As the president said, there's still more to do to meet the promise. And it's why this administration has taken urgent action to strengthen rights and protect the safety of transgender Americans and all LGBTQ plus Americans. As we mourn the loss of lives that have been taken too soon, we must also recommit ourselves to never stop fighting until all Americans can live free from the discrimination and also from hate.
All right. So this right here is what I would call a big lie. Okay? This whole day is a lie. Now, I'm not saying that there hasn't been a transgender person that was killed specifically because of the fact that they were transgender, and it had nothing to do with anything else. It wasn't a drug transaction or a
robbery,
a sex transaction gone wrong, something like that. Yeah. I hate it when someone gets killed in a sex accident. Those are super dangerous. Mm-hmm. Okay, but here's the problem. They literally take every transgender person that gets murdered or killed, maybe just homicide, and they put this blanket assumption. They talk about them and they say that they were killed because they are transgender. So she says people should be free, not have to live in fear because of who they are, and they should be free from hate. But the question is, as people were saying in the group, was who killed them? How did they die?
Why?
Why did they die? What is it? And so I went through some of them. I found an article that listed out like 8 of them. Okay, now you would assume this article came out yesterday. It was talking about the Transgender Day of Remembrance. So what you would assume is this article has cherry-picked the 8, since they had maybe 8 in the article, that they have cherry-picked the 8 worst hate crimes that took place
against transgenders in 2023
for being transgender. And what I found in those 8 that they listed was one that could have been a hate crime, possibly. And all the other ones were robberies, drug transactions, a sex transaction gone wrong. Someone was charged with murder. They ended up saying self-defense because the guy claimed that he met up for some sexual activities and that they tried to rob him and that he had to defend himself. Now, maybe he went there to rob them, or they. I'm not sure which one it was. They named that Tortuguita, the guy or girl or whoever died in the Atlanta Stop Cop City thing that the police killed. Now, are you making the assertion that the cops killed old Tortuguita because they were trans, or because the story is, now we can argue about whether or not this was a good or bad shoot or what's going on with police brutality in this case, but the argument was that Tortuguita had shot at the cops. And in this protest, they've had some pretty crazy protests down there.
But if you hear the radio transmission, it's like the officer number 1 says to officer number 2, "Bro, that chick has a penis.
Yeah, that's what they got that on radio.
Shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
And then there you have it.
That's what happened.
That's proof.
That was the first.
Not that they were being shot at.
No, not that.
It wasn't.
It was because
it wasn't bullets flying past their head.
It was because they were trans.
Yeah.
That's why the shooting happened. And so this big lie, every year, it gets preached out to us all throughout the year. They'll name 22 trans, 28 trans with the disproportionate violence against trans people and disproportionately black and women or men who think they're women of color. And that's who it's against. And so this is all about hate. And what you actually find out is that a high proportion of these people are involved in some type of criminal activity and ended up dying like all other sorts of people die all throughout the year because of some type of activity that was going on there. Maybe they got robbed. Maybe they got killed in a home invasion, something like that. But they make the assumption that it was because they were trans, and they go out here and they preach about how this is all about hate. Once again, I'm not saying that there haven't been any that happened, but in the article I looked up, which was talking about the Transgender Day of Remembrance, they didn't name a single one that had been clarified and found and investigated to be specifically because the people were trans.
Yeah. Well, it just shows your trans hate.
That's what it is.
Trans hate, trans Nate. I like what T-Dub said. He said the transgender killer still on the loose. Will they, them ever be caught?
Is that multiple killers? I don't know which one. Okay, well, I did put some of the article in here. Okay, the 8th thing that we're going to talk about today. Yesterday was, I didn't look at what number birthday it was. Can someone look and see how old Joe Biden is real quick? Because it was his birthday
83?
yesterday.
It's got to be 83, 82?
Is it 83? I think it might be 83. His birthday was yesterday.
And they set his cake on fire.
So here's the discussion that happens when you're running his campaign. Okay, we're going to do a picture with a cake, Mr. President. Actually, they're not talking to him because he's not there. They're talking and they're like, okay, what are we going to do for Joe Biden's cake?
Oh, 81.
And they say, well, we could just put one candle on it and have him blow it out. He probably has the lung capacity to do that. So they put the one candle on, but they're like, no. Then it seems like we're trying to shy away and hide how old he is. And then they're like, well, let's just buy some of those numbers. We'll get some of those numbered candles. And it says 81. They're like, no. You can't put the actual number on there. Like, that's too crazy. Hardly anyone's seen a cake with those numbers on it before. Okay, we don't want to put those numbers. And they're like, you know what? We're just going to go all out on this. We're going to accept it. We're going to own it. And we're going to put 81 motherfucking candles on this cake. And we're going to light them all on fire.
Actually. I mean,
okay?
Yeah.
And the cake...
This really isn't dumb. This is kind of cool.
The cake looks like the table's on fire. And so...
It's kind of awesome, actually.
In this case, I would just not do the picture with the cake.
Now, did Bowman pull the fire alarm after this?
He probably did. It was in preparation.
Yeah.
Now, when I saw this, I immediately saw the meme, the "This is fine" meme. There's a little dog sitting in the room saying "This is fine." So I don't know if you saw me sitting in the car when I got to your house. I sat out there for about 15 minutes because I'd just seen this picture. And I was like, well, I got to make a meme.
This morning?
Yeah.
No.
I was like, I got to make a meme using the "This is fine" thing because I think that would make the most sense. And so I made this meme right here of that little dog sitting there with Joe Biden saying that. Have you seen this before?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is the image that they have just portrayed to the world.
Everything's
right
fine.
There.
Yeah.
This is fine. Don't worry about it. There is a literal campfire on the table right now, and that's just his birthday cake.
T-Dub says his cake looks like Gaza. That is a 1/64th scale Gaza model. And that's how they present to the president. Like, if you send us more money, this is what Gaza will look like.
There you go. That's the selling point. And then let me see. We got one more thing on here. This was a late entry for today's episode, not Dumb Bleep of the Week, from myself that I saw. And it's going to come from MSNBC.
Oh.
So we got a nice clip from MSNBC today.
Gaslight NBC.
Gaslight NBC. Now, of course, they're worried about Donald Trump, okay, who, as you know, is Hitler. Of course, I didn't have to say that. You already assumed that. And of course, how dictatorial he's going to be when he gets into office. Dictatorial he's going to be when he gets into office.
Is that old Reverend?
That's old Reverend Al Sharpton. He's still kicking. Okay. And the quote here that we'll look for, in a second term, Trump will imprison, he will execute whoever he is allowed to imprison, execute, drive from the country. Just look at his past. It's not really hard to read.
Huh. Because Trump talks in simple terms, so it's not hard to read his letters.
I'm trying to figure out what past they do know that the guy was president before, right? You know?
Did he execute people?
Other than being a war criminal like all U.S. presidents, I don't know about the people that he specifically executed. But let's listen to this just mind-numbing clip from MSNBC. And that's Joe Scarborough, is that his name? Okay, I don't know who this girl is because I'm sexist.
Have a responsibility to really tune out the voices of the haters, of the people that are constantly double and triple checking and shilling for him and suggesting that somehow they're being biased, bending over backwards, treating him like a normal candidate. He's not a normal candidate.
Are they talking about Joe Biden so far? I can't really tell. Okay.
He is running to end American democracy as we know it.
Still, I don't know who they're talking about. I haven't heard it yet.
He's an authoritarian who a court in Colorado 2 days ago ruled that he led an insurrection against the United States government. He's charged with leading schemes to help overthrow the United States government.
Oh.
He's what?
He's charged with leading schemes to help. Now they're saying overthrow the United States government. That is... I don't know why you have to go further than what he tried to do, which is he tried to overturn the election results by trying to get the governor of Georgia to investigate the votes and see if he could find any fraudulent votes. Because anytime you look, you can find some fraudulent votes. And I don't know if you're going to find 11,000 or whatever it was that he was looking for, but you can find some votes. You can do that. Now, I don't think that that's the same thing as trying to overthrow the United States government.
Well, it's scheming to do that.
Yeah, but his goal was not to overthrow the government. His goal was to still be the president of the United States government. It was never like we're going to overthrow the government.
This coming from the same group who, when Trump won, said not my president. They spent 4 years investigating him.
Said that he stole the election.
Saying he stole the election, trying to overthrow the United States government. Yeah. They wanted Trump out.
Okay, let's hear some more.
So if they want to frame it that way, that's fine. If you want to be fair, then you will frame this as Joe Biden being the candidate that supports American democracy and Donald Trump, a candidate who supports a new form of government here that's authoritarian. It's really that simple. And
that's the fair way to frame it.
That's the fairest way I've ever heard it framed. I've never heard a more fair framing than what that was.
This isn't propaganda, by the way.
I hate
This is the truth.
Maybe new listener listening right now somewhere out there. Okay, just for your information, Charlie and I, neither one of us voted for Donald Trump either time that we had a chance to do it. Okay. I'm not saying that he was the most libertarian. Okay, well, actually, we have said he was the most libertarian president that we'd seen in our lifetime.
I said possibly whenever we talked to Brian.
So that's possible, but it's not like we're over here shilling for Donald Trump all the time. All right. And I've said that I think it's going to be revenge Trump if he wins. And I think it could end up being kind of bad. Not so much about fixing the country and restoring our rights and all that, and more so getting back at the people who wronged him. Like it's a vendetta for people who have wronged Trump, not so much the American people.
And he'll be a lame duck, so he'll have 4 years to just get back
do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
Now, I don't think that that's instituting a new kind of American government. Let's say he's going to get in there and defund the FBI or maybe the Homeland Security or something like that. Okay, you could say new form of American government. Technically, you're rewinding us back like 100 years or whatever as far as the size of the government. Still not. It'd still be way bigger than what it was then. But I don't just want to accept that anyone who wants to decrease the size of the government that like Trump allegedly wants to is someone who's just going to institute some type of authoritarian. Decreasing the size and scope and power of the government is not equal to authoritarianism.
It's actually the opposite.
Those are different things. Okay.
And by the way, Reverend Al, when people go, oh, you can't compare him to past Nazi leaders, you can't compare him to this past Nazi leader or that past fascist leader, because he hasn't done that. Well, what hasn't he done? He hasn't done the things that the American judicial system did not allow him to do last time. But
don't you remember the big Supreme Court case? And this, I mean, we all watched it live on TV. This is where Trump had put a whole bunch of Jews in concentration camps. And then they had a big Supreme Court decision came forward and says, no, you got to let those Jews go back outside.
Yeah.
You know? And so that it turns out, yeah, sure, he didn't do these things because the American court system, he didn't do the things that past Nazi dictators did because the American judicial system didn't allow him to do it.
Wouldn't allow him to do it. No, checks and balances.
There you go. Okay, It even works against Nazism.
May very well allow him to do this time, or a judicial system that will be ignored by Donald Trump and ran over by Donald Trump to create the greatest constitutional crisis of our lifetimes. Just because he hasn't done it yet doesn't mean he won't do it when he gets a chance to do it.
Like he did, like he's been the president before.
Yeah.
He already served 4 years. And he was Hitler last time already.
Yeah. The fear, I haven't heard this much fear yet. So
they're worried about him.
They are.
They're worried.
Which I've told you, Nate. I told you.
They're worried.
I told you this guy's going to win. You don't believe me. He's going to win.
I think there's a chance.
And I'm even more convinced of it now. As worried as Joe Scarborough is.
Yeah, they're scared.
I'm even more convinced of it now.
Now, notice they also said he didn't do the things because the American court system didn't let it do it. How many things that Biden tried to do against the Constitution has the court system struck down since he got into office? Like he has tried to do.
Well, but he's trying to protect democracy. There's a difference, Nate.
That's what it is.
There's a difference between trying to exterminate Jews and protect democracy.
All right, those are the 9 things that we're going to talk about today, Charlie.
I wanted to hear Al Sharp.
Let's see what he had to say.
And if he is
I'm sorry, that was a racist moment for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you
we heard from the white people.
The Reverend.
Yeah.
Voted into office, then a lot of these people that are talking about literal or figurative or whatever the hell they're saying, you're going to look like idiots because he will get away with, he will imprison, he will execute whoever he's allowed to imprison, execute, drive from the country. Just look at his past. It's not really hard to read. The only thing that stood between...
What about his past? Like, he will execute whoever he's allowed to execute. Just look at his past. What are you talking about?
I mean, it seems like he'll grab women by the P word.
Well, yeah.
Obviously, we know that. Is that the same as executing?
Well, he executed the P word grab. Yeah. If that's what you're talking about, it's a move.
Yeah.
You know, we all know that. But does Al Sharpton get to speak in this clip?
Him and the destruction of American democracy was the federal judiciary.
No doubt about it. And I think that when we talk about framing this.
Oh, okay, that was it. That's all Al Sharpton gets to say.
And I like how they're coming out and saying it. That we talk about framing this conversation. They're literally framing it in a way that perpetuates their narrative. You know, that this is the most evil person to ever exist. Now, look, again, I don't really like Donald Trump. I think he's a liberal Democrat from New York who spends a bunch of money, has no fiscal responsibility whatsoever. He's definitely not an Austrian economist or Chicagoan economist.
No,
he doesn't understand economics that well when it comes to those things. I don't like him that much when it comes to, but I think that he did when he was president, had some good policies. At least we didn't start any new wars. I wish he could have ended more. You know, he could have brought our troops home.
To be fair, he tried to bring people home from Syria and they literally ignored him.
Yeah, but he's a commander in chief. Could have been like, do it now or you lose your job.
He tried 3 times, I think.
And I'll find someone who will do it. Anyway, my point is, and then here's the other thing. It's like anyone could do all these scary things. Right? So it's like to have this fear because, especially when he said like, he's capable of doing it, and he might do it. Like he will. We should be scared because it might happen. You know, I'm just reminded of people living in fear because it's like, oh, well, then, you know, you might get in a car wreck. So maybe you shouldn't drive your car because that's evil car. I mean,
could happen.
Yeah, exactly. It could happen. It could happen. So we shouldn't do it.
I just, he says something in there too, like anyone, he kind of laughs off, oh, you can't make comparisons to Hitler or Nazis or anything like that. And he says the people that are making fun of that are going to feel like idiots after Donald Trump is back in office once they see what he's going to do. So, I mean, we need to save this clip and just see how many genocides Donald Trump does while he's in office. Because from what I remember...
I think it's going to be more or less than what he did the last time he was in office.
I would say the same amount of genocides. Okay. Yeah. I don't think he's going to increase his genocides.
Yeah.
You know, which is what that's what made him better than the previous presidents. He kept pace with the previous guy's genocides. Yeah. Didn't have his own name.
I'm more convinced now than I was 10 minutes before this clip that Donald Trump's going to be president in 2024.
Yeah.
They are terrified.
I'm terrified.
These people are terrified. I don't actually think they're specifically terrified. I think they're obviously just doing their jobs.
No, they're trying to get at least 20,000 people to watch their TV show.
Yeah.
That's all they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. And also you notice like him stumbling for words. He's trying his best.
You can see him just making stuff up.
On the
like,
teleprompter,
what's the craziest thing I can say?
The craziest things about Donald Trump.
And that's the thing we need. Like you said, we're not big fans of Trump, but we also don't have TDS like a lot of people do. And what I want is just a fair conversation, an actual fair conversation.
Yeah.
Not one where you say it's fair and then you call him Hitler. You know, an actual conversation about policies and what he says he's going to do, not what you're assuming he could do, stuff like that. I just want an actual fair conversation about it. And that's what I want about everyone.
Talk to the Christians about how he's not really Christian.
See how that goes.
You know? Be like, hey, evangelicals, you're supporting this guy who's not really, in your camp.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't.
That's one of the weirdest phenomenons
I know.
I've seen. That's what made me think he might be the Antichrist, but I don't think enough people like him for that.
Yeah.
I think both sides have to like him, technically.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie in a long time.
Dante Speak?
Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah.
No, Twister.
That's
the one I was thinking of.
Right.
Anyway, let's get out of here. That was not a dumb bleep of the week. But Charlie, if you were to pick one, join the Fed Haters Club to figure out what his pick was. We'll be back with more Liberty at Night.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join today.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 2 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Reports suggest that a deal to release around 50 hostages held in Gaza has been reached. The agreement will see a multi-day ceasefire in return for Hamas releasing Israeli and international hostages. Both the US and Israel say they expect to provide more details and good news soon. US State Department spokesman Matthew Miller addressed the current talks.
We are very close to an agreement, but we are not there yet. As you have heard us say a number of times over the course of the past few weeks, nothing is final until everything is final. And at this point, everything is not yet final, but we are close. We are hopeful to have some good news for the hostages and their families. We're hopeful we can start bringing some of them home.
US President Joe Biden says counter-narcotics cooperation between the US and China was a top deliverable out of the talks with President Xi Jinping. Speaking on Tuesday, Biden said it's an important step to curb the flow of fentanyl into the United States. Biden and Xi met during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit last week. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
During their meeting in San Francisco, President Joe Biden says he and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to work together to stem the flow of deadly opioid fentanyl. Biden told a meeting on Tuesday that he has made important progress during the meeting with Xi, with China having already taken steps to shut down companies dealing in the illicit trade of the precursor chemicals. The US president says the influx of fentanyl is a global challenge that demands global action. He has also called on Congress to pass his budget request that includes more funding at the US southern border, as the finished product usually comes across the border into the US.
Elon Musk has sued Media Matters for America, accusing the non-profit of trying to drive advertisers from the social media platform X. It comes after the advocacy group accused the site, formerly known as Twitter, of posting adverts alongside anti-Semitic content. FSN's William Denslow reports from New York.
The lawsuit alleges that Media Matters knowingly manufactured images to show ads next to white nationalist and neo-Nazi content. The suit claims that this was part of a strategy intended to drive advertisers away from X. A number of firms, including Disney, IBM and Apple, have halted ads on the social media site since Media Matters conducted its analysis. The non-profit describes itself as an information centre that monitors and corrects conservative misinformation in US media.
The minutes from the US Federal Reserve's last meeting give no indication that the central bank is preparing to cut interest rates. Details show that officials remain concerned that inflation could still increase. They expect to keep policies in place in an attempt to get inflation down to the Fed's goal of 2%. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the future of American assistance for Ukraine. It is looking decidedly sticky. Weeks after the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Kevin McCarthy, was ousted by his fellow Republicans after striking an agreement to keep the US government running that did not include any funding to help Kyiv. Democrats may now be regretting that they backed that compromise measure because there is no current pathway to restore funding for Ukraine, given Republican opposition in the House. Carla Ann Robbins of America's Council on Foreign Relations on the consequences of all that.
I don't doubt the commitment of a majority of the United States Senate and probably a majority of the U.S. House. But all the problems that we all know about what happens on Capitol Hill, that's really what's holding things up. Here in the United States, the Europeans are vowing that they'll do whatever it takes, but they don't have the resources. They certainly don't have the military resources the way the United States does. They don't have the deep pockets of the U.S. to do things. We've got a lot more equipment, and we're worrying about backing and filling our own resources. They need the United States to keep this going. I don't see right now a plan to get this money through.
And that is a massive problem for both President Volodymyr Zelensky and also for President Biden. He is trying to get legislative support for fresh aid for Israel as well, as opposition in America grows to its assault on Gaza. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, reports suggest that a deal to release around 50 hostages held in Gaza has been reached. It would come in return for a multi-day ceasefire. US President Joe Biden has praised counter-narcotics cooperation following talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping, and Elon Musk has sued a non-profit organisation accusing it of trying to drive advertisers away from the social media platform X. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Following today's press conference in which NASA announced its continuing search for a planet capable of supporting NASA, researcher Dr. Kenneth Heiser sat down with Onion reporters to detail their ongoing mission to find a NASA habitable planet.
Our objective is to find a planet capable of nurturing not just life, but also a sustained interest in the exploration of the cosmos. Such a planet would need to have water and proximity to light and heat, but also life forms with even the vaguest understanding of the importance of astronomical exploration. Ultimately, this would need to be a planet with organisms that have a genuine interest in expanding the limits of their knowledge.
Heiser added that any planet capable of supporting NASA would need to be able to generate a steady stream of financing to meet the agency's $18 billion annual budget.
The important thing is we just need to be patient. There's a limitless number of planets in the universe, and eventually we'll find one with the resources to support our work. We just have to, right?
This is the Onion News Network.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
What's up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Liberty at Night with Nate and Charlie on the Free Talk Live network. And this hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction and has implemented really cool features to ensure it is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their chain locks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering the Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. And a big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org. Big thanks to everyone who is joining us to listen today. Normally we have a podcast called Good Morning Liberty, which we run every single day of the week. And so if you're listening to us on the radio right now, it's Liberty at Night. Make sure you go to goodmorningliberty.us, go to joingml.com if you want to listen to the show live every single day. And make sure you go look at some merch. We got all kinds of merch on our website. Go to goodmorningliberty.us and hit that. Find us on TikTok, on Twitter, or X, on Instagram, all those places. And at Good Morning Liberty, we talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of meaning every single day of the week when we want to. Smash that follow button, smash that subscribe button. And as you can tell, the first thing that we're talking about today is the election of a libertarian president in the country on planet Earth. And I don't know if your mom just said good morning from downstairs. So I guess we have an audience right now. They could probably hear us yelling and all that. So we have a libertarian president of a country on planet Earth. And I don't know how many times that has happened in history, other than some of the first presidents of America, I guess. What are you frowning about right now?
Weird pop-ups happening.
Oh, anyway. So we'll talk about Javier Milei a little bit, and then if we have some time, we'll talk about what's going on with Elon Musk and Media Matters and X and his lawsuit that is about to take place. I started this off with a quote here from President-elect Milei. He says, I just saw this one this morning. I thought it was pretty good. The state is a pedophile in a kindergarten with the children chained up and bathed in Vaseline. So I think that's a great way of describing the state.
That was translated.
Yeah, I had no idea.
He said that in Spanish for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely that's not how he said it, but that's how we say it. Let's talk about some good things first. So the media, our news media, is sounding the alarm on Argentina's new far-right Trump radical president. And it has me asking what it even means to be far right. Like if you come in as a almost anarchist, minarchist, and that makes you far right. I don't really know what scale they're using. Now, on some culture things, I guess he comes out far right, but not far right on economics.
Also Trump-like.
Yeah. And what they mean is he is abrasive and he says whatever's on his mind. He's not afraid of making people upset when he's talking. He's not afraid of calling people out. He's not afraid of saying offensive things.
He's very much populist. I mean,
he is a populist. That's true.
Which, by the way, if you go back and watch the debate I did with Amanda, it would take a populist message for a libertarian to win.
Mm-hmm. And
this is proof in the tapioca pudding.
And unfortunately, my argument's going to be that's not actually enough. But I don't want to rain on the parade yet. But I am going to nate this thing eventually in this conversation, because I had a great conversation with a guy named Marcos Falcone. Marcos Falcone, I think was his name. And
Falcone.
We talked about Javier Milei. He is a political scientist in Argentina. And he said, no, there's not actually a libertarian revolution happening in Argentina right now. People are just upset. And he's the guy who's saying he's going to tear the whole thing down. But it's not like there's a bunch of anarchists running around down there or straight up libertarians reading Rothbard and stuff like that. They're just mad about the way things are. And if this doesn't go well, they'll topple him within a year. So that's what he's up against right now.
Does he have a dog named Rothbard?
I don't know.
I think I saw that. I don't know if it's true or not.
Something about a dog. I did hear something about a dog. So the Washington Post says Argentina set for sharp right turn as Trump-like radical wins the presidency. A radical libertarian and admirer of Donald Trump rode a wave of voter rage to win Argentina's presidency on Sunday, crushing the political establishment and bringing the sharpest turn to the right in 4 decades of democracy in the country. Javier Milei, 53-year-old far-right economist and former television pundit with no governing experience. See, they say the same thing about Vladimir Zelensky in Ukraine, I bet, when they talk about him being the president.
Exactly.
Claimed nearly...
No, this is making him like Trump.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no governing experience. Claimed nearly 56% of the vote in a stunning upset over It wasn't stunning at all.
Most people knew this was happening. Yeah.
The center-left economy minister has struggled to resolve the country's worst economic crisis in 2 decades that he created.
Exactly. He has the governing experience.
Yeah, no, this is the crisis this is him that did this. That's why he lost the election. Even before the official results had been announced Sunday night, Massa acknowledged defeat and congratulated Milei. He said, "I'm not your Massa no more." Voters in this nation of 46 million demanded a drastic change from a government that has sent the peso tumbling, inflation skyrocketing, and more than 40% of the population into poverty. Woo! 40%.
And that's like real poverty, by the way. This is American poverty standards.
That's not like you're on a crappy cell phone plan.
This is like you're back to living on less than $1 a day.
That's not like your data gets throttled after 100 gigs kind of poverty.
No,
No,
this is like you're less than $1 a day in today's money.
Okay.
Literally today's money.
With me, I don't know what their actual poverty, I don't know if they're talking about absolute poverty or not when they say that, but it's, I'm not sure.
Well, just think about it. Okay. What is it? $1 equals 2,500 pesos now in Argentina, something like that?
It's more like 1,000.
1,200?
Something like that.
But still, imagine, let's say you make 10,000 pesos a month.
Mm-hmm. That's not a lot.
Now you're only literally making $10 a month.
It's a lot of pesos.
Yeah.
It's a ton of pesos.
Now you're only making $10 a month. If you make 100,000 pesos a month, which I don't know what the average salary is in Argentina. Could probably look that up.
Probably could.
But 100,000, you're only making $100 a month.
With Milei,
$100 US.
Argentina takes a leap into the unknown with a leader promising to shatter the entire system. In his first speech as president-elect, Milei told Argentines that, quote, "The model of decadence has reached its end. There is no turning back. Enough of impoverishing power of the castle. Enough of the impoverishing power of the castle. Today, we once again embrace the model of liberty to once again become a world power." His supporters joined him in shouting, "Long live freedom, damn it." It's a quote. I didn't say that, Mom. That's what he said. Okay. Or the crowd said. Crowds are crazy, okay? Wielding chainsaws on the campaign trail, the wild-haired Milei vowed to slash public spending in a country heavily dependent on government subsidies. He pledged to dollarize the economy, shut down the central bank, and cut the number of government ministries from 18 to 8. His rallying campaign cry was a takedown of the country's political caste, an Argentine version of Trump's Drain the Swamp. So if you say that you're going to take down the political elites, that's just like Trump saying drain the swamp. And that's why he's just like Donald Trump, of course.
By the way, average salary is 45,000 pesos.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's rough.
So
that is rough. That's just above $1 a day.
Yep. That's for your average salary.
Yeah, they're making
now 40% are in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they probably are below $1 a day.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Just do a little math. In today's money.
Yeah.
That's today's money.
Massa sought to stoke fear over a Milei presidency. Massa was the economy minister, the minister of the bad economy. Over a Milei presidency, they argue, could threaten Argentina's democracy and way of life. Of course, electing this guy who wants to destroy the political caste as a threat to democracy, just like Donald Trump. But ultimately, anger won over fear. For many Argentines, the bigger risk was more of the same. This is a quote from an Argentine who said, "We don't have anything to lose. We've had this type of government for so many years and things are only getting worse." That is correct. Why be scared of just of trying something else? What you're doing isn't working. A Milei presidency brings the far right to power and the third largest economy in Latin America. I still don't know what they mean by far right when they're using this terminology. And it could have profound implications for the region and the world. In a continent dominated by leftist leaders, Milei could create tensions with governments he has attacked, including crucial trading partner and neighbor Brazil. In an era of growing Chinese influence in Latin America, Milei could become the region's most vocal antagonist to a country he once called an assassin, China. He's got good words for stuff, you know? He's good at this stuff. Milei made a name for himself as a television pundit who insulted other guests, and he has shown a tendency to fight with the news media. He has circulated conspiracy theories and raised unsubstantiated claims about electoral fraud. I bet you there's absolutely no electoral fraud in Argentina.
No.
They've got that stuff on the wraps, okay? The total conspiracy theories.
I just love their just projection and that, you know, just trying to attack someone because they believe differently. And they try to do it in this liberal arts way.
Well, they're afraid of losing power, so they try to make you scared of this person, and they try to tear him down and delegitimize them, you know. He has branded Pope Francis, an Argentine, an evil leftist. Climate change, he says, is a socialist lie. He would hold a referendum to undo the 3-year-old law that legalized abortion. Many Argentines chose to overlook the Milei messages that made them uncomfortable. For some, a vote for the outsider was a reluctant yet strategic vote. So that's from the Washington Post. And this kind of thing keeps going. New York Times says Argentina elects Javier Milei in a victory for the far right. You know, and it's like, what does this even mean? I don't even understand what this means.
Yeah.
Like the far right, how far right? Like Hitler far right? Are they saying he's Hitler?
Embrace of conspiracy theories. What conspiracy theories is he embracing that have not come true?
I don't know. I think saying that climate change is a socialist lie is one of the main things. What he says mostly about climate change is that there's no proof that it's human caused. That is the socialist lie. Anyway, Milei's election is a victory.
I'm looking up some of these numbers, by the way.
Oh, for the economy?
You guys think you have it bad in America. My God in heaven.
Not good, huh?
Hallowed be thy name in a helicopter. It is bad. So I found another on Numbeo.com. I don't know how. This
that's my favorite
updated
site.
for 2023.
I go there every morning.
It says the average. This one is saying the average net salary after taxes is about $400, but the average rent is $200.
Ooh,
outside the city.
Yeah,
$300, close to $300 if you're in the city. That's for one bedroom.
Okay.
And then the mortgage interest rate is 53% if you want a mortgage.
Yeah. That's a lot.
53%.
Mm-hmm.
You guys think 8% is bad.
That's a little too high. I'm not sure I'd be buying a place at 53%, you know.
Preschool or kindergarten is $131 a month. And this is all in dollars, by the way. If you want a private primary school, it's $4,000 a year. People can't afford anything.
No, that's why so many people live on government welfare there to try and make up for it, which then just pushes the prices even higher. And they're not taking in enough tax money because they've nationalized all the businesses and businesses have left. And so they're not taking in the money they need to even pay for the government subsidies to the people that they send. So they print it, which is why their inflation rate is 140%. That number of 53% for a mortgage or, you know, for that's not even high enough, honestly, for there. They have 140% inflation rate. At that rate, the bank loses a ton of money.
Still.
At the end of the loan.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we have interest on things and not just, you know, we look at usury. Of course, they go a little bit above what the inflation is. But when a bank loans you money and they're going to get that money back over 30 years, they have to calculate what they think the inflation rate will be year over year. So when they get all that money back, it's actually worth it to them, and they didn't take a huge hit on that at the end of the day. So that's why the rates have to go up when you're in a high inflation environment. And they got 140% year over year right now.
I saw a really good point from Hannah Cox, who is on Based Politics, also does a lot of stuff on her own too as well. She made a really good point.
I retweeted that one.
About how Argentina they elected this person, Milei. But she also made the point of, do we have to get to that point before we realize that we need to do something to turn everything around? Because we're far, looking at these numbers, I didn't realize it was this bad. I knew it was bad, but this is, if you just think about what these people are going through, it's real bad.
Mm-hmm.
They say 40% into poverty, and that's like real poverty, like actual poverty.
They're like a few years away from being Venezuela.
Yeah.
You know?
So does America have to get to that point, or can we look at some of this stuff and be like, okay, let's try to turn this ship around before we are actually starving in the streets?
Unfortunately, the answer is no. We will not do that.
Because this guy's terrible. This guy's a terrible person. We're reading about how terrible he is.
Well, it's actually, here's the reason. This happened because so many people are upset. This didn't happen because a whole bunch of Ayn Rand books went out to everyone 5 years ago, and they finally got through Atlas Shrugged. And they were like, oh, okay, well, we should vote for a libertarian because that's the way to do it. No, they did it because...
There's enough people that are backed into a corner.
Yeah, and so they're saying we have to go for someone who's going to change things. And it didn't... That's the problem here, is that this probably didn't happen because of some libertarian philosophical revolution happened in the country. It happened because these people have no other option but to try something different from what they've been doing. Yeah. And so that's... I'm likely what has to happen.
Some days I'm with Councilman Yep here in our live group, Fed Haters Club. He said, let's speed this train up so we can fix things fast. He's voting for Sanders and AOC in 24.
Collapsitarianism. That's the way to do it.
Sometimes I think we may need to go there.
I think we will go there.
Let's go ahead and
take a long time.
Let's burn it up quicker so that we can get the liberty faster.
There we go. Let me see. They mentioned Donald Trump, of course.
I will say, luckily, Argentina
Brazil.
didn't break out into a civil war. That's a good point by Copperhead. You know, it didn't take a civil war
for this to happen.
Yeah. Enough people were backed into the corner. They were able to peacefully elect someone who knows what's going to happen. Can he actually get rid of the central bank? Probably not.
No.
Can he actually institute a lot of the things that he wants? Probably not.
Well, the thing is,
he's going to receive a lot of pushback, but I'm hoping, obviously, as a libertarian, we're hoping this experiment goes well.
The thing is, if the videos we see of him are from of him pulling all those names off the board, you know, afuera, you know, he pulls off these things. He's changed his tune a bit, like in the last couple of months, and that's what Marcos, who was on the show a couple months ago, was telling me, that he's actually backed off on a lot of these radical policies, what some would consider radical, because he needs the support of the labor unions and people like that to actually get anything done. And so it's not going to be the crazy abrupt change that a lot of libertarians are expecting to happen. At the end of this part right here, it says, still some political analysts say that Mr. Milei's ascent reflects many Argentines' desperation for change rather than support for his far-right ideology. Some voters share his extreme views, but there are others who voted for him because they see Milei a way to express their frustration in the face of an economic and political reality that has been ugly to them for a long time. Says a professor
why has
of
it been
history.
ugly to them?
That's the thing. Like, will they? It's still going to help. Like, a lot of people are going to adopt this philosophy because this is happening. But I'm still personally worried about what happens when the transition takes place, because there's going to be a lot of pain during the transition when you're moving from I'm living off of government money to I have to get a job, or, you know, and actually work for the money. Or maybe I'm going to get even more poor for a minute because the government has to stop paying out this money and these subsidies, and things are going to be tough for a period of a few years. And if this abrupt change doesn't happen and work and show signs of actually having more prosperity within one term of his, then he's not going to get reelected or whatever. I don't know how often you can run. I don't know if you get one term or two or 18 over there. You know, some countries it doesn't matter.
Did you see Trump's comments? Previous slide.
That he was proud of him.
He was proud of him.
Yeah.
He's going to make Argentina great again.
Yeah. MAGA, still MAGA. Quote, they don't look at Milei's ideology. They see that Milei is angry and that Milei is proposing a break. Failed economic policies have long left Argentina with one of the world's most perpetually unstable economies. Yet even by its standards, the country is in one of its worst crises. Annual inflation has soared past 140%, the third highest rate in the world. More than 2 in 5 Argentines now live in poverty, and the value of Argentina's currency has plummeted. In April 2020, the start of the pandemic, $1 bought 80 pesos. This week, $1 bought nearly 1,000 pesos.
Jesus Christ.
Whew.
So
that's not good.
Literally, if you're making, the average is 45,000 pesos a month, you're making $45.
Yeah.
$45 a month.
That's $1.50 a day. There you go.
Hardly get the upgrade for Netflix for that price. You know? You can only support one Netflix account.
Yeah. Economists and political analysts have said Mr. Milei lacks the political support and the economic conditions to pull off such a radical change. His nascent Liberty Advances party holds just 7 of the 72 seats in Argentina's Senate and 38 of the 257 in its House. Mr. Milei has recently softened some proposals after blowback. So we'll see what happens. People in the group saying, yeah, he has acknowledged this, that this is going to have to be gradual. It's not exactly going to be the image of a chainsaw cutting through or blowing up the central bank or anything like that. Like that, and it does take time to do this. You can't just do it overnight.
It took time to get here.
So, but like in that, in the interview I'm referencing, which I re-released this morning, just so people could hear us talking about it. My fear is what happens if things do get worse before they get better in this transition, because if the population is just upset about the terrible conditions that they're living in, and they're not actually on board with the philosophic change that he's trying to implement, then they'll throw him off the plank just as fast as the last guy, you know, because if they're voting based on what their personal financial conditions are and not because they believe in liberty and they believe in personal property and free market capitalism and all this, and they've agreed that it's going to take 10 years for this to happen, then you might not even make it a full term. All right, a little bit more of my Debbie Downerism, I guess, when it comes to Javier Milei. We'll be talking about that, and then, of course, we'll be doing Don't Bleep of the Week.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible and its network is protected from 51% attacks, by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Reports suggest that a deal to release around 50 hostages held in Gaza has been reached. The agreement will see a multi-day ceasefire in return for Hamas releasing Israeli and international hostages. Both the US and Israel say they expect to provide more details and good news soon. US State Department spokesman Matthew Miller addressed the current talks.
We are very close to an agreement, but we are not there yet. As you have heard us say a number of times over the course of the past few weeks, nothing is final until everything is final. And at this point, everything is not yet final, but we are close. We are hopeful to have some good news for the hostages and their families. We're hopeful we can start bringing some of them home.
US President Joe Biden says counter-narcotics cooperation between the US and China was a top deliverable out of the talks with President Xi Jinping. Speaking on Tuesday, Biden said it's an important step to curb the flow of fentanyl into the United States. Biden and Xi met during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit last week. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
During their meeting in San Francisco, President Joe Biden says he and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to work together to stem the flow of deadly opioid fentanyl. Biden told a meeting on Tuesday that he has made important progress during the meeting with Xi, with China having already taken steps to shut down companies dealing in the illicit trade of the precursor chemicals. The US president says the influx of fentanyl is a global challenge that demands global action. He has also called on Congress to pass his budget request that includes more funding at the US southern border, as the finished product usually comes across the border into the US.
Elon Musk has sued Media Matters for America, accusing the non-profit of trying to drive advertisers from the social media platform X. It comes after the advocacy group accused the site, formerly known as Twitter, of posting adverts alongside anti-Semitic content. FSN's William Denslow reports from New York.
The lawsuit alleges that Media Matters knowingly manufactured images to show ads next to white nationalist and neo-Nazi content. The suit claims that this was part of a strategy intended to drive advertisers away from X. A number of firms, including Disney, IBM and Apple, have halted ads on the social media site since Media Matters conducted its analysis. The non-profit describes itself as an information centre that monitors and corrects conservative misinformation in US media.
The minutes from the US Federal Reserve's last meeting give no indication that the central bank is preparing to cut interest rates. Details show that officials remain concerned that inflation could still increase. They expect to keep policies in place in an attempt to get inflation down to the Fed's goal of 2%. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
All right, welcome back to Liberty at Night with Nate and Charlie. I've been strategically downplaying the rise of Javier Milei.
This is still a net win for Liberty, though.
Of course it is.
It's going to turn more people to the ideology of liberty or libertarianism or whatever, and I think it's going to move more people globally into that movement, regardless of whether the majority, out him.
The reason I bring it up
a couple years or not.
The reason I bring it up is not to rain on the parade, which it sounds, I've already done that quite a bit.
Typically what you do.
I know. The reason I bring it up is...
If you want your dreams to die, bring them to Nate. It's, where they say where dreams go to die?
That's my house.
That's Nate's house.
Yeah.
Any dream you have, it doesn't matter. If you're like, man, I dream of having a family one day, tell that to Nate. And your family dreams will die right there.
The reason I bring it up is our country and Argentina and all the other countries I want these changes to truly happen. And for them to really happen, it needs to happen truly in the population and not just the guy, the executive at the top doing this. Because for it to really stick, for it to really last, the change has to happen in the people. And the people elected him. He won 56-44, which is a landslide. It's the most popular victory in 40 years, like since they became a democracy. And so he's the most popularly elected president that they've had in that time frame. For this to really stick, the change has to happen in the population philosophically, and you can't stop working on that because the election was won. You know, you got to keep preaching these principles and this philosophy, and that's our job. That's what we do.
Hey, you know what? The Fed Haters Club did a really good analogy here with Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Andy Dufresne.
Yeah.
And you're Red. Yeah. I have hope that we're going to get out of this mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I dream and I do things to accomplish that.
Yeah, but at the end, it's Andy. Andy loses hope, and Red's trying to keep him, from hanging himself or whatever, saying you can't talk like that, Well, at the end, he's leaning up against the wall. He's sitting up against the wall, and he's talking all sad. It's like, I killed a Red. I didn't pull the trigger, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it was right before he escaped.
I know.
He wasn't actually going to do it. He was just having a moment of self-reflection, which hardly anybody can do.
All right, one really funny thing that's doing great on our Twitter right now. You search Javier Milei, and we're actually in the search results.
Oh, nice.
This is for a CNN article. It says far-right outsider Javier Milei wins Argentina's presidency. And just below at the bullet point, Milei's victory puts the peso's future in doubt.
Because it's doing well right now.
It's doing so good right now.
Yeah.
Now, someone pointed out, and I'll be honest, he literally wants to go away from the peso and use the American dollar instead. So he is literally putting the future of the Argentine peso in doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not what they meant.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the funny part is I read the article and it's not an economic article at all. They don't mention the peso. They don't mention, they say one line about dollarizing, and the rest of it is just all the bullet points that we've already gone through, and everything else, Trump, this, Bolsonaro, that, far right this, far right that. And I just brought up the chart of the peso over the last 10 years. And as far as the future being in doubt,
you should have shorted that. Yeah.
And it was good. It was falling even before that. That's just a 10-year button that I hit on the chart. But even then, this is compared to the U.S. dollar. It was, let's just say 0.16 to the U.S. dollar. And then now it's 0.002. I believe.
If you're trading currencies, this is...
You want to short that, or you want to buy the dollar versus the Argentine peso.
Yeah.
And then you look at the inflation, 142.7% in October, year over year, projected to go up to 180% by like December.
Woo!
And it's skyrocketed. This is hyperinflation territory. Their average since 2017 is 57.6% inflation. We talked about 9.1% under Biden last summer, and you're talking about 142 year over year and projected to go up to 180, and then it's going to be up in the 200s before you can even turn this ship around. It's a tough ship to turn around right now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Tenacious Nick D said it's sad the USD is a better model. It is. And actually, you look at the dollar has actually been really strong over the last few years, because they compare it to a lot of the other currencies around the world, and it's actually been pretty strong since COVID in relation to all of the others. So that's our talk on Javier Milei. I know I say a lot of negative things. Like Charlie said, this is overall a good thing. What I worry about, I couldn't hold off and just say positive things.
It's not White Pill Wednesday.
The problem is, if it doesn't go well, if the change is not real in the population, this could actually end up being a very negative thing for liberty. As the interviewer referenced, again, he said this could end up having the word liberty banned for the next 30 years from public discourse if this goes poorly for them. So that's what I worry about when it comes to things like this. My bad. Nate is Eeyore.
Okay. I guess I'll go home now.
I just want it to be real. Okay. Anyway, let's.
You always think about how things can go wrong. You know what my therapist said to me not that long ago? He said the what if game goes both ways.
Yeah.
What if everything goes right?
Yeah.
You know?
I just think it's good to.
Which, by the way, you can find a great therapist at BetterHelp.com/GML.
You can get 10% off your first month. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp.
Man, daylight savings time just happened.
It did.
I got to tell you, I hate it. The reason I hate it is because it gets dark, and darkness leads to being sad.
It can. It really can. We're coming up on the holidays too, and that's the time of the year that people get really sad as well. You're dealing with your families and stuff like that. A lot of scheduling things that happen. I get super stressed out about all the scheduling. So, what do you have issues with that? I don't know.
And then it doesn't last long enough.
Yeah,
because like the holidays can be really fun, but to me, it's really about the sun.
That's really what it is.
It gets dark, and then I get dark.
But doing therapy, by the way, could be kind of a bright spot. Charlie, I know that you do some therapy with your BetterHelp guy every now and then, and that can kind of be a little ray of sunshine.
It's actually amazing.
You're missing that.
Yeah. I love BetterHelp. It's one of my favorite things to look forward to through the week.
Has it actually helped?
Yeah, a lot.
I know.
I mean, as one of my friends, you know what's happened this past year. And so
I've done therapy too, by the way, not with BetterHelp, but I've done therapy and it helps. So, I mean, I know some people are reluctant to do that, and maybe it can be tough to talk about things, but trust me, you're not going to regret it. You'll be happy that you did it. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge.
Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/GML today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/GML.
Elon Musk is threatening a thermonuclear lawsuit.
That's a dangerous lawsuit.
Against media. The lawsuit to end all lawsuits against Media Watchdog calls advertisers oppressors. Okay. He's talking about Media Matters, which is a left-wing organization that their goal is to try and get advertising to stop on anything to the right of Bernie Sanders. And so if any advertising happens, they try to find a word, they can take stuff out of context, or they can take a controversial thing that you said, and they try to lobby those advertisers for the company to stop their advertising, or else they'll blast out that your company supports people who say things like this. So, and it is my goal in life to get on their radar. That's what I've been wanting to do this whole time.
Mm-hmm. I think we're probably, well, we're not on the radar, but if they watched any of our stuff, we would be on their list.
So there's this thing that happened last week. X started losing a bunch of advertisers, like Apple and Microsoft or IBM and all these big companies pulled out, and it was because of this report from Media Matters. And what they showed them was that their ads were getting served up next to like pro-Hitler tweets. I'm not just talking about people who are voting for Donald Trump. I'm talking about people who were actually praising Hitler. And I'm not talking about that journalist from the New York Times either, like actual Nazis.
Yeah.
And so these days you look at a post as you're going through, there's advertisements under the post. And so the people that post that can make money off of that. Okay. And so they showed that there were an Apple advertisement under like a thing praising Hitler, what people think a spiritual awakening looks like. And it's this girl doing yoga. And at the bottom, the spiritual awakening is actually Hitler and a bunch of crazy people. And there's an Apple ad beneath it. So they got this report over to these people and a bunch of people dropped off. What Musk is finding out is that Media Matters created 3 accounts and followed 30 accounts similar to the ones in the article. They then constantly refresh the timeline. 13 times the number of ads served to this user as opposed to the median user. 50 impressions served against the content in the article out of 5.5 billion that were served for the whole day. And basically they created new accounts, followed very specific accounts to tailor ads to that person, and then went to a controversial post and kept refreshing that post until an ad finally popped up underneath it. And that's
screenshotted it.
And that's what happened. They screenshot it. They did a report, and now all these people are backing out. Okay, and so now he's saying that he's going to sue them. Let me just get to their blog post on this. This is what X put out about what Media Matters is doing. Charlie, go ahead.
All right, here are the facts on Media Matters research. To manipulate the public and advertisers, Media Matters created an alternate account and curated the post and advertising appearing on the account's timeline to misinform advertisers about the placement of their posts. These contrived experiences could be applied to any platform. Once they curated their feed, they repeatedly refreshed their timelines to find a rare instance of ads serving next to the content they chose to follow. Our logs indicate they forced a scenario resulting in 13 times the number of ads served compared to the median ads served to an X user. Of the 5.5 billion ad impressions on X that day, less than 50 total ad impressions were served against all of the organic content featured in the Media Matters article. For one brand showcased in the article, one of its ads ran adjacent to a post 2 times, and that ad was seen in that setting by only 2 users, one of which was the author of the Media Matters article. For another brand showcased in the article, 2 of its ads served adjacent to 2 posts 3 times, and that ad was only seen in that setting by 1 user, the author of the Media Matters article.
Meaning the screenshot that we just showed, that ad that showed up under the pro-Hitler, pro-Nazi post could be the one where literally that Media Matters author is the only person that saw that ad next to that post. No one else saw it.
And they were trying to get it there.
And they just kept refreshing until an ad finally popped up.
Media Matters article also highlights 9 posts they believe should not be allowed on X. Upon evaluation, only one of the 9 organic posts featured in the article violated our content policies, and we've taken action on it under our freedom of speech, not reach enforcement approach.
So that's their explanation.
I'm kind of torn on this, though, because in a free market,
well, yeah,
with freedom of speech, I mean, I think Media Matters can do this, and then this is where the war should play out.
Their argument,
not in a lawsuit.
The argument is that they misrepresented to the companies the actual situation.
Then it's X's job to go back to the companies and say, "Hey, you're following misinformation. Here's the proof," and then get those advertisers back.
But now what they're doing,
that's freedom of speech.
Because now what happens?
Voting with dollars is freedom of speech too.
If those companies come back,
I think we're going to disagree on this one.
If they listen to I'll get you. If they listen to Elon Musk and he's like, "Hey, no, this is a sham," and let's say Apple is like, "Okay, we're going to start doing ads on X again." Well, that does damage to Apple's reputation because according to all the people who watch the news, that means Apple is okay with their ads being served next to pro-Hitler posts. Like the story's already gone out. The damage has been done, and the damage was done by Media Matters misrepresenting to these companies and getting them to pull out to begin with. Now, if those companies go back, they're going to have brand damage associated with them because of this, because the story's already happened.
Would this qualify under any type of slander? I guess reputation damage.
Yeah.
I mean,
for those companies, like it's already gone out.
Well, I meant for X though. So you're manipulating data to ruin the reputation of a company. I don't know. This is tricky.
Yeah. All right. See, I already told you I'd get you on that.
No, I'm just saying it's tricky.
Here's an interesting post. So Stephen Miller, who worked for Trump at some point in time, that becomes important later on, basically saying that they committed fraud by doing this because they are an actual organization and their job is to present this data to companies on what's going on with their advertising. And by doing what they did, they're saying that was fraud. Stephen Miller says fraud is both a civil and criminal violation. There are 24 plus conservative state attorneys general. Elon Musk responds saying, "Interesting, both civil and criminal, ... And when he says stuff like that, I always go, Interesting, both civil and criminal. Yeah. That's what I hear him saying it as, like with a top hat, maybe. Something like that. Civil and criminal. Yeah. Okay, so that leads to this article headline. Elon Musk and Trump aide want journalists jailed over ex-Hitler expose. That was the post right there. All he says is fraud is a civil and criminal violation. And Elon Musk says, yeah. And here's the article headline. Elon Musk and Trump aide want journalists jailed over the Twitter ex-Hitler expose from Media Matters. Now, all they point to, not any other words that anyone said, all they point to is this right there. That's it. And then they talk about the same story that we just told you about users pulling out because of this thing going on. And there's a paragraph dedicated to saying this exchange right here that happened. Yeah. I get that from...
So Steven said meh, and Elon responded meh. They support Hitler.
I get that from Titanic when he's like, perhaps we should do the women and children first. And the captain's like, women and children first. Yeah. That's what it says. Anyhow, that's like the article. An advisor to former President Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey have called for journalists at Media Matters to be jailed over report. Now, just saying that it's a criminal violation could be a fine or something, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know what the exact statute says has to happen, but they haven't even called for them to be jailed. They just acknowledge the fact that if they are guilty of fraud, that is both a civil and a criminal violation. So anyway, that could have been like a dumb bleep.
I still don't know. This is tricky. This is tricky.
I think it's well within X's rights to sue Media Matters if they found that they were fraudulently manipulating the system, you know, and to do damage to them. And you got to ask, like, why would they do this outside of, whether or not they have the right to do it? But why are they doing this? They're doing it because they don't like the fact that there's free speech, kind of, on Twitter, X. They don't like the fact that people like me and you, or people like some of the doctors that were censored during the COVID times, or even Trump, or anyone like that, has the ability to go on X and reach millions of people by posting things.
They want asking questions.
They want to shut that down. They want it censored because they're a far left extremist organization that wants only left-wing voices to be able to make any money off of ads, which is how you eventually shut people down. Like you, believe it or not, folks, eventually you got to make money doing this or you'll stop doing it.
Also, I'm not saying you might turn me. I'm just thinking this through. If they do file a lawsuit, that could lead to an investigation, which could then you could get the electronic communication at Media Matters and find out what the motivation was behind putting this article together.
Yep. That's why it's...
And yeah. So filing a lawsuit opens up the avenue to subpoena records, and you could find out what the motivation was behind these types of things. And then you could prove fraud.
You could get them saying in a Slack channel, yeah, we're just going to create these we're going to create these profiles and we're going to like these specific people, and then we're just going to go to a post and keep refreshing it, and eventually their system's going to let an ad come through, you know, and you just kind of get detailed information on how they planned to take down X, why they planned to take down X. And this is like the biggest organization doing this. They do this for everyone on Fox and Newsmax and OAN. They do it for the podcast world. They literally have people who listen to every big podcast and try to find things that they said that are objectionable, and they take that and they take it to the show's advertisers and they try to get them demonetized as a way of taking down those talking points from being in the public ear holes.
Interesting.
So it would be good. It'd be good, I think, for this to come out and for Media Matters to take a hit on this.
Yeah. Okay.
So, especially if they willfully, fraudulently did this, as it seems they may have.
Yeah. I don't know. I still feel like you can beat them with the truth.
Maybe, unless they try to bankrupt him. You know, I mean, you're talking, the problem with Musk is that he's got loans that he has to sell Tesla shares to try and pay the loans for Twitter for X.
And the interest keeps going up.
And there's an incentive to take down X so you can also take down Tesla so you can fully destroy Elon Musk, you know, and all of his net worth. So there's a,
You're saying there is a Dr. Evil?
There's a lot of there's doctors, a whole hospital full of.
With a mini-me?
Doctors Evil. Yeah.
In a lair?
Probably in a lair.
With sharks with freaking laser beams attached to their freaking heads, probably?
Probably, yeah. Laser beams.
Well, maybe Mike Myers wasn't too far off.
No, he was right on. All right, man, let's go.
All right, if you enjoyed today's episode or not, share it with a friend or don't. And leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And go follow us on X as they're trying to take it down. Go follow us there. Actually, we have a bunch of social media.
Yeah.
TikToks.
TikTok Anonymous.
TikTok's Anonymous. Yeah, we're on there. YouTube, Instagram, Facebooks. Where else?
That's
Odyssey.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Ramble.
It's so bad that Odyssey.
Rumble.
I wish Odyssey was more popular.
Is it Rumble?
Rumble, yeah.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Odyssey is the best video platform. Like the thing for, I mean, it runs so smooth, so much better than YouTube.
Go follow us or don't. And share the friend. Hey, you know what? I hope everyone has a pretty good Thanksgiving. I've been negative recently in you guys listening to the show, and I've told you I don't care whether or not you have a good day or a bad day. I'm being sincere when I do hope you have a good Thanksgiving.
How about that?
I am being sincere. Some people are alone on holidays, and that's sad.
So you'll be positive when it comes to genociding Native Americans.
Well, when people are able to get together.
Okay.
I really believe in community. I believe in human beings being able to be in the same room.
I wish I shared your feelings on this.
I just, if you were actually alone, Nate.
Yeah.
Think about it.
That's true. I've never actually been alone.
Exactly. Because you're scared to be by yourself. That's why. Even though you don't like a whole bunch of people, but you wouldn't like being in solitary. Would you?
I don't know. There's no way of knowing.
For a week or two max.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is...
We're still recording right now.
I hope that you have a good holiday. And, if you don't have anywhere to go, Fed Haters Club has my address.
There you go. If you just want to go have Thanksgiving dinner with Charlie, you can do that. That'd be just fine. Now, I want to tell you before we get into Dumb Bleep of the Week that, of course, we have a show every single day of the week called Good Morning Liberty, which you can find on your favorite podcast app. You can even find this full 3-hour episode of Liberty at Night on the Free Talk Live channel on your favorite podcast app. So you want to go look those up, make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe. We put up a video of every day's episode, so if you want to see our faces or if you want to see the videos and slides that we're referring to or data, whatever it is, go do that. You can go to goodmorningliberty.us and get some of our merch. You can just go to godhatesfeds.com and get one of those beautiful God Hates Feds shirts. And if you hear people hanging out with us live, that's because they went to joingml.com and joined the Fed Haters Club. Coming right up is Dumb Bleep of the Week.
Following reports that local full-blown alcoholic Ken Matheson has such great friends that let him drink himself to death right before their eyes, the 32-year-old man spoke to reporters during a typical evening of binging with his closest friends.
Man, these guys are like brothers to me. I don't know what I'd do without them.
The chemically dependent man, who can reportedly always count on his friends to look the other way, facilitate belligerent behavior, and encourage his self-destructive impulses, informed reporters that the members of his tight-knit circle are, quote, the best buddies a guy could ask for.
Can you just shut the fuck up? Seriously. Just shut the fuck up. I lost back then. Keep going. What the fuck are you looking at? I love you, man. I love you.
Check this week's Onion Review for further developments.
I love you. Oh, God, I love everybody.
This is the Onion News Network.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 3 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Reports suggest that a deal to release around 50 hostages held in Gaza has been reached. The agreement will see a multi-day ceasefire in return for Hamas releasing Israeli and international hostages. Both the US and Israel say they expect to provide more details and good news soon. US State Department spokesman Matthew Miller addressed the current talks.
We are very close to an agreement, but we are not there yet. As you have heard us say a number of times over the course of the past few weeks, nothing is final until everything is final. And at this point, everything is not yet final, but we are close. We are hopeful to have some good news for the hostages and their families. We're hopeful we can start bringing some of them home.
US President Joe Biden says counter-narcotics cooperation between the US and China was a top deliverable out of the talks with President Xi Jinping. Speaking on Tuesday, Biden said it's an important step to curb the flow of fentanyl into the United States. Biden and Xi met during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit last week. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
During their meeting in San Francisco, President Joe Biden says he and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to work together to stem the flow of deadly opioid fentanyl. Biden told a meeting on Tuesday that he has made important progress during the meeting with Xi, with China having already taken steps to shut down companies dealing in the illicit trade of the precursor chemicals. The US president says the influx of fentanyl is a global challenge that demands global action. He has also called on Congress to pass his budget request that includes more funding at the US southern border, as the finished product usually comes across the border into the US.
Elon Musk has sued Media Matters for America, accusing the non-profit of trying to drive advertisers from the social media platform X. It comes after the advocacy group accused the site, formerly known as Twitter, of posting adverts alongside anti-Semitic content. FSN's William Denslow reports from New York.
The lawsuit alleges that Media Matters knowingly manufactured images to show ads next to white nationalist and neo-Nazi content. The suit claims that this was part of a strategy intended to drive advertisers away from X. A number of firms, including Disney, IBM and Apple, have halted ads on the social media site since Media Matters conducted its analysis. The non-profit describes itself as an information centre that monitors and corrects conservative misinformation in US media.
The minutes from the US Federal Reserve's last meeting give no indication that the central bank is preparing to cut interest rates. Details show that officials remain concerned that inflation could still increase. They expect to keep policies in place in an attempt to get inflation down to the Fed's goal of 2%. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the future of American assistance for Ukraine. It is looking decidedly sticky. Weeks after the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Kevin McCarthy, was ousted by his fellow Republicans after striking an agreement to keep the US government running that did not include any funding to help Kyiv. Democrats may now be regretting that they backed that compromise measure because there is no current pathway to restore funding for Ukraine, given Republican opposition in the House. Carla Ann Robbins of America's Council on Foreign Relations on the consequences of all that.
I don't doubt the commitment of a majority of the United States Senate and probably a majority of the U.S. House. But all the problems that we all know about what happens on Capitol Hill, that's really what's holding things up. Here in the United States, the Europeans are vowing that they'll do whatever it takes, but they don't have the resources. They certainly don't have the military resources the way the United States does. They don't have the deep pockets of the U.S. to do things. We've got a lot more equipment, and we're worrying about backing and filling our own resources. They need the United States to keep this going. I don't see right now a plan to get this money through.
And that is a massive problem for both President Volodymyr Zelensky and also for President Biden. He is trying to get legislative support for fresh aid for Israel as well, as opposition in America grows to its assault on Gaza. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, reports suggest that a deal to release around 50 hostages held in Gaza has been reached. It would come in return for a multi-day ceasefire. US President Joe Biden has praised counter-narcotics cooperation following talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping, and Elon Musk has sued a non-profit organisation accusing it of trying to drive advertisers away from the social media platform X. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Saying that he has no idea what to make of the mixed signals, area man Pete Summers told reporters today he keeps getting ambiguous text messages from local woman Haley Mueller, claiming that she's not at all interested in him.
One minute she's like, I don't want to go out with you. And then she'll mention how she has to go hang out with her boyfriend. I mean, what am I supposed to do with that?
Summers, who first met Mueller at a friend's party last month, informed reporters that the 27-year-old's increasingly perplexing text messages have left him unable to ascertain whether or not she would want to date him. He also noted that Mueller's behavior at social gatherings was equally vague.
Last weekend, we were at a party, and every time I would go up to her, she just said, "Leave me alone." Then I text her the next day, and she totally doesn't even respond. I mean, she just needs to make up her mind and tell me what she wants. She hasn't answered my last 3 phone calls, so maybe I should go over there and make sure everything's okay.
This is the Onion News Network.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
What's up? This is Liberty at Night with Nate and Charlie on the Free Talk Live Network, and it's time for everyone's favorite show, Dumb Bleep of the Week. That's where we vote on the dumbest things said in politics this week. All right, Dumb Bleep number 1. This is one that we already talked about earlier in the week, but it's got to be in Dumb Bleep, and it's going to go to Gavin Newsom. This is Gavin Newsom talking about people are alleging that they just cleaned up the city because the commie dictator was coming to town. And he's like, not only is that true, but it's true.
Folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true. But it's also true, for months and months and months prior to APEC, we've been having different conversations.
Not only is it true,
it's
true.
And should it be dumb? Because this is one of the few times where he told the truth about something, you know? Yeah. So, and that gets him into Dumb Bleep of the Week. You do have to say something about him openly admitting the fact that, yeah, we let this city just run amok with poo on the streets up until the point that Xi Jinping was coming to town, and then we cleaned it up. And you guys called us on it, and you're right. That's what happened. Yeah. I could have done this, or they could have done this. The mayor could have done this for the people who live here and pay the taxes that we just use to clean it up. We could have done this the whole time. But instead, we had to do it right now so we would look better for people that were coming to town. So that is Dumb Bleep number 1, Gavin Newsom.
Honestly, I mean, it seems like he took accountability. And that's all you can ask for.
He didn't really take accountability. He made the case for why it was the right thing to do, to wait and then do it right before someone comes to town, you know? But whatever. Dumb Bleep number 1. So number 2, David Hogg. Wrong kid died. That's what I always yell in my head whenever that happens. David Hogg. He's responding. This is one of those Defiant L's hypocritical posts.
His orange square didn't really take off, did it? No. But he's still going with it.
That did not catch on at all. This is in response back in, let me see. Now, this is a recent response to Tim Pool, who says raise the voting age to 30.
Which is a response to David Hogg saying...
No, this is two tweets put together right here for the Defiant L's thing. So Tim Pool says raise the voting age to 30. David Hogg responds and says, when your policies are so itty, you have to change who can vote in order to win. But then also, you go back to June of 2019, David Hogg says, retweet if you support lowering the voting age to 16. Because he's been pushing for the young people are going to make the real social change. And so you got to let them vote. I got to admit, I'm torn on the ideas. Like, I know that realistically right now, it would be better to raise the voting age up to 30. Like, that makes way more sense. But then at the same time, we're like, well, you should be able to drink and do whatever you want when you're an adult and buy a gun and do all that stuff, drive a car, whatever. And that's because and you look at like back in the old days when the country was founded. I mean, look how young some of those people were that were even fighting the revolution and founding the country, Are we just accepting that we've kind of regressed a little bit as far as our maturity goes? Probably a little bit.
Yeah.
Just accepting that.
I mean, people in their 20s don't know anything. I didn't know anything in my 20s.
No.
I'll tell you that much.
Well, does that mean the founding fathers didn't know anything?
There's something to be said about being able to make decisions as an adult and learning from them, because sometimes you don't learn unless you do. So then are we just going to keep pushing it further and further back? If you think about the founding fathers, they had full-time jobs by the time they were 10.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were 24, 25, 26, and they were running the country, it was like they had already had 10, 15 years of experience.
At the end of the day, what I think would make the most sense, a little bit more controversial, would be just landowners, or at least net taxpayers, if there's going to be taxes, that if you receive money from the things that you vote on, you shouldn't be able to vote to receive other people's money that's stolen from them.
Yep.
And that actually makes the most sense. And then you could do that at whatever age you wanted, because you could say, well, just landowners or just net taxpayers if you're going to have the taxes. And that would, if you're going to vote away other people's money, it's got to be the people who have the money that are voting for those things, and not the people that are taking the money.
Well, then just give it to themselves, though, Nate. I mean, come on.
They would give their own money to themselves. Yeah, that's the whole point. They would just stop it.
Yeah.
So, okay, dumpling number 2 is David Hogg. A little bit of hypocrisy. Number 3, this came from the group. Thanks for sending this over. Mass murder is a choice. The gun industry made it. They have made the choice for mass murder. I can't remember where this came. I think this might have been Rolling Stone or something like that. Mass murder is a choice. We have an article here. And Charlie, if you want to read some, I'll read some.
The modern firearms industry's mission couldn't be clearer. Profiting off the sales of weapons that can turn lone shooters into mass killers or armed discontents into a homeland security threat. It's weird that the firearms industry's mission would be to make firearms that they then sell to people.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes bad people do things, and most of the time, good people don't do anything with them.
I don't see
Sometimes
anyone
bad people do things
at Bushnell or Springfield or Glock. No one in that company is being like, "Ah, yes, now this one's going to kill all those people at that nightclub we hate."
Yeah. That's probably not what's happening.
I hope the right person purchases this one.
But by even manufacturing these things, that is de facto what they're consenting to. They're complicit in the mass murder, Charlie. That's what you have to understand.
Documents produced by the industry's top-grade group even advise leaning into the panic buying that can follow mass shootings by targeting a market segment it calls the anxious buyer, shorthand for folks who say they want to buy a firearm before it's too late. It's not because of the mass shooting. It's because everyone talks about banning them afterwards.
Yeah. It's because they're worried the government's going to ban them. That's why. That's why the panic buying happens, or the anxious buyer happens.
The market research directs that assault weapons, more frequently targeted for sales restrictions, are the best bets for these would-be gun buyers.
Because they're worried they're going to get banned.
Yeah,
I think about it all the time. Like, I need to go buy some AR-15s before it's too late. I wouldn't even be thinking that if people weren't trying to ban them. De facto, I could end up owning an AR-15 simply because the government is talking about banning them.
And you want to get one before they get banned.
And whereas otherwise, I would just put it off and probably never buy one. And so the only reason I would have an AR-15 is because I'm worried they're going to get banned.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
I actually specifically bought a model of an AR-15 that was used this model was, not this exact gun, but the model of this gun was used in one of the mass shootings. And the reason why is because they were talking about banning them, and because it was the same model, it drastically went on sale. And so I got it at a big discount.
There you go. You got to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
The mass murder in Lewiston was a tragedy, but not an accident. It is a choice. That's one up in Maine. And it's one that the gun industry made and has doubled down on, pushing tens of millions of massacre-ready weapons on the American public. By the industry's own accounting, America's domestic assault weapon arsenal stands at more than 24 million guns, roughly 1 for every 10 adults, with a record 2.7 million introduced in 2020 alone. I wonder why so many people bought assault weapons in 2020.
How many people have died at the hands of an assault-style weapon? Let's use their terms. An AR-15. How many people have died?
Or a massacre-ready weapon, an MR-dub. You know, got to go get those MRWs off the street.
How many people do you think of? 100, 200? Let's say it's 1,000.
It's not 1,000.
But let's say it is 1,000.
Okay.
Do the math. 24 million guns, 1,000 people have died. Statistically, no one has died from assault weapons.
It's very low.
From assault
and the
guns.
actual number is like 100.
Right.
And actually per year, it's like 50.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that... We're just throwing some numbers out here, but it's a very, very small portion of the gun deaths that occur. Half the gun deaths are suicides in the first place, and most of the other gun deaths are from handguns and normal like gang violence and stuff like that. And then you have some of these people who use assault weapons or whatever. So the Lewiston attack was a logical expression of what gun manufacturers now market assault rifles for: deadly domination. The industry pitches battle-proven AR platform assault rifles to civilians with imagery of special forces troops and taglines like "Core Combat," "Use what they use," and "Your mission awaits." Such slogans dovetail with even more reckless marketing from makers of tactical accessories who pitch gear for your daily gunfight, assault packs, and carrying cases with names like Urban Warfare and even Coffin. It's the marketing that does it.
Yeah.
You just got to take on the marketing.
And the video games.
Oh, it's not just that, though. This is a male problem, too. Okay. The industry's alpha male sales pitches promise buyers the power to control your destiny. According to law enforcement records, Card had been haunted by phantom voices, including taunts that he had a small dick.
In quotes.
In quotes. That's what they said. The Ruger SFAR, with its thick barrel, is marketed without subtlety as bigger and stronger where it needs to be. So it's not just the big trucks that people are buying, okay? It's the big SFARs.
Yes.
There you go.
They should just call it SDE.
Let me see. Let me figure out where they start talking about the boom.
Well,
that
go back
happened
to that one because
in
this is actually
2004.
true. This is actually true. Assault rifles were never meant for self-defense or hunting. They are bred for infantry warfare and designed to mow down enemy soldiers. Not entirely inaccurate, by the way.
Yeah. Although the one time I've gone hunting in the last 25 years, 20 years was with an AR-15.
But here's the thing. It's the Second Amendment's not for hunting or hunting either. Self-defense, yes, but it's also for keeping the government at bay.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to argue for anything else.
No, that's what it's for.
Yeah. I need my weapons to fight against tyranny.
You know what?
If the time comes.
Ban hunting. Just outlaw hunting. Screw you. We still need AR-15s.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Then they talk about Armalite in the 1950s. Okay. 4 factors combined to transform the once marginal AR-15 into America's rifle. That's what AR stands for, America's rifle. First, the assault weapons ban expired in 2004. Second, and most crucially, President Bush signed the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act. In 2005, the new law diffused efforts by cities and states to sue gun makers for the public health damages of the weapons they sold, much as Big Tobacco was forced to pay massive settlements for the... gun manufacturers never marketed guns as something that you could shoot someone with and it wouldn't hurt them. Okay? So it's not the same thing as big tobacco.
There's big warnings on there.
Yeah.
It says this will kill you.
There's not a person who thinks like, oh, I could shoot him in the face. It won't hurt him. It says so on the box right there. It's not going to hurt him. That never happened.
Yeah.
Okay?
Unlike cigarettes.
So no, don't compare this to big tobacco, who was out there telling people that they were, your doctors recommending cigarettes and stuff. Okay,
Which
totally
actually
different
happened.
thing.
And actual doctors recommended cigarettes, by the way.
So a third change gave such marketing a patriotic punch. America was now at war, fighting on two fronts in Iraq and Afghanistan, obeying the same perverse profit motives that brought the Hummer into suburban driveways. Gun makers turned the AR-15 into a maker of patriotic consumerism. Even now, the phenomenon has hardly abated. There's a certain type of middle-aged man in this country who, that part doesn't. The fourth change that supercharged the already soaring sales, the election of Barack Obama. A combustible mix of racial anxiety and fears of new regulation elevated the assault rifle into a totem of right-wing tribal identity. So I just want to clarify that numbers 1, 3, and 4 are all the government's fault. Number 2, they say, is legal stuff, which they're just making this up because they're comparing it to big tobacco. Number 1, 3, and 4 are all the government's fault. Like I just told you, the only reason I ever think I need to go buy an AR-15 next week is because I'm worried they're going to be banned the week after that. And that's the only, honestly, without that,
it creates scarcity in economic terms.
Exactly. They do the marketing for the companies by creating scarcity. Scarcity is one of the most important things in marketing. And anytime you see something like, oh, there's only 3 left, there's only whatever left, get this, you see that timer counting down on the timer refreshes every time you go to the website. Okay, they put it there to trigger something in your brain. We have an option to put that on
Unless you're buying tickets, by the way.
Yeah.
That's happened to me before.
We have an option to put that on our God Hates Feds website, and I don't do it because I find it to be so dishonest. Like it's a timer that refreshes every time someone goes to the page.
Yeah.
You're lying to people, telling them that they only have a certain amount of time to buy something. Mm-hmm. But that's what the government does with AR-15s. And so it works beautifully. So when the ban was over, people ran out and grabbed them because they could and because they were banned. They bought them because of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. We shouldn't have been in Iraq and Afghanistan in the first place, so that one shouldn't exist either. Okay, so you can knock out 3 of these 4, and the 4th one's fake by the government not doing dumb stuff. So anyhow,
go on.
That's all I got. That's all I got for Dumb Bleep number 3.
All right,
for that article. Number 4 is this picture that was circulating, and I did find some other photos to corroborate the fact that this is going on. It's a picture of 2 ladies, and they're in Israel, so I can probably be correct in calling these ladies, carrying what seemed to be AR-15 style rifles.
Those look like M16s.
They do look more like Now, I know that you can get a very standard looking AR-15 that has, that it does look more like an M16. You're right about that. It could be. Totally could be. Carrying those on their backs while they're shopping for sunglasses. Okay. And the comment here, this is relevant because this had 7 million views on this guy's post right here, where he puts in quotes, innocent Israeli civilians. And so they're no longer innocent Israeli civilians because here they are walking around in shopping malls carrying guns on their backs
to protect themselves.
So you can't call them innocent. And by the way, the top comment says what, Charlie?
They never were. Also, once you bear arms, you're no longer an innocent civilian, let alone military grade assault rifles.
Military grade. What's that mean? The cheapest possible?
I love how the anti-Semites are just calling themselves out.
I don't know if in this case, it's just complete anti-gun nuts, because you're literally just saying that once you bear arms, you're no longer innocent. Even if you've never hurt anyone. If you've got a gun for protection, a month ago, people were running around, putting people in ovens. Their pets' heads were being cut off, crazy stuff like that. And now they're carrying weapons with them when they're going shopping. And you're just saying, well, now that you're carrying a gun for protection, you're no longer an innocent person. What an idiot.
That's real dumb.
What a freaking idiot.
This belongs in Dumb Bleep of the Week.
It should be in Dumb Bleep. Look at that. 7 million views.
Wow.
In how many days? What day is it? In 5 days. I screenshot this yesterday. So in 4 days, 7 million views on that post. That's ridiculous. Okay, so that's Dumb Bleep number 4. Now we get to, I think we can do this on YouTube these days. I don't know, because we're reporting a real story here.
Yeah.
And it's not the actual...
this from NBC?
Yeah.
It's like an NBC.
So what is happening now as a result of what we did in 2021, Charlie?
CDC reports highest childhood vaccine exemption rate ever in the U.S., 40 states. The number of kids whose caregivers are opting them out of routine childhood vaccines has reached an all-time high. The CDC reported Thursday, potentially leaving hundreds of thousands of children unprotected against preventable diseases like measles and whooping cough. Not Whoopi Goldberg, whooping cough.
This is her cough.
Mm-hmm. The report did not dive into the reasons for the increase, but experts said the findings clearly reflect Americans' growing unease about medicine in general. Quote, there is a rising distrust in the healthcare system, said Dr. Amna Hussain, a pediatrician in private practice in North Carolina. Vaccine exemptions have unfortunately trended upward with it. Now, I wonder why.
There's just no way of knowing.
Who would have guessed, you know, when the CDC came out and said, you don't need to wear a mask, but you need to cover up with something, use a t-shirt or a sweatshirt.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, well, now everyone has to wear a mask.
Yeah. And
then you have to get vaccinated. It's going to prevent you from getting COVID. Well, now it's not going to prevent you from getting COVID. When
you should give it to your kids, even though we've never tested it on kids before. We think it's probably safe because we force some other kids to get it against their will.
When they were giving you false information, obviously that creates a lot of distrust. This is why they should just tell the American people the truth and let people decide, and then they would trust you.
Yeah.
And then you probably wouldn't have something like this happening.
This is what happens when you try to force people to do something. And it's not just libertarians that this happens with. People grow wary of like, why are they trying to force me to do something? Charlie, I'm going to tell you a secret that I would never tell anyone else. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now. I was going to get the COVID vaccine. I had no problems with getting the COVID vaccine. I figure it's probably mostly safe, probably about as safe as all the other vaccines. That's fine. The only reason I didn't get it was because they were trying to force me to do it. And I didn't want to do that. I wasn't cool with it. I literally had I don't think I would have had some kind of vaccine injury from it statistically, you know, so I'm not worried about that. And then at this time, we still thought that they did something. Remind me to cut this out before I put it on YouTube. And so, because I just took that test and I aced it, you know, and they're supposed to take our strike off in January. I don't want to get extended for another 3 months past now. I was going to get it, but when they started trying to force people to do it, I was like, that's not cool. And I didn't realize that you couldn't. There was no legal recourse if it ended up being harmful, you know.
Isn't that weird?
And beforehand, at least you had like 10 years worth of testing, you know. So sure, the whole thing where you couldn't sue the companies, that started like back in the 80s, I think. That wasn't something they just started for these vaccines. That had been a thing for a while. But used to, it would be like 10 years before they would actually start giving people a medication. So at least you had a little bit more data of what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. So now they can't get in trouble for it, and there's like no long-term data or even medium-term. 10 years is still short-term, technically, especially when you're talking about kids. So, no, just not going to do it. Not going to happen.
And the reason I took it, of course, the live group calls me a sheep. That's fine. I had the same analysis as Nate, and the only reason I did it, because I was like, it's going to be relatively safe. I'm pretty healthy. I'm probably not going to have adverse effects to it. Now, maybe I will have long-term effects I don't know of yet. It's possible. But I chose convenience over anything else. And I wanted to travel overseas and to make it easier on myself to get in and out of countries and fly on an airplane. I decided to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
It's the only reason. If I wasn't going to be traveling overseas, I probably wouldn't have done it. And it wasn't because anybody was telling me to. I made the choice.
Well, you think you were making the choice, but actually, Someone else is pulling the strings. Okay, that's Dumb Bleep number 5. We still got like 5 more coming up, so don't go anywhere because they're going to get extra special dumb on Liberty at Night on the Free Talk Live Network.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Reports suggest that a deal to release around 50 hostages held in Gaza has been reached. The agreement will see a multi-day ceasefire in return for Hamas releasing Israeli and international hostages. Both the US and Israel say they expect to provide more details and good news soon. US State Department spokesman Matthew Miller addressed the current talks.
We are very close to an agreement, but we are not there yet. As you have heard us say a number of times over the course of the past few weeks, nothing is final until everything is final. And at this point, everything is not yet final, but we are close. We are hopeful to have some good news for the hostages and their families. We're hopeful we can start bringing some of them home.
US President Joe Biden says counter-narcotics cooperation between the US and China was a top deliverable out of the talks with President Xi Jinping. Speaking on Tuesday, Biden said it's an important step to curb the flow of fentanyl into the United States. Biden and Xi met during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit last week. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
During their meeting in San Francisco, President Joe Biden says he and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to work together to stem the flow of deadly opioid fentanyl. Biden told a meeting on Tuesday that he has made important progress during the meeting with Xi, with China having already taken steps to shut down companies dealing in the illicit trade of the precursor chemicals. The US president says the influx of fentanyl is a global challenge that demands global action. He has also called on Congress to pass his budget request that includes more funding at the US southern border, as the finished product usually comes across the border into the US.
Elon Musk has sued Media Matters for America, accusing the non-profit of trying to drive advertisers from the social media platform X. It comes after the advocacy group accused the site, formerly known as Twitter, of posting adverts alongside anti-Semitic content. FSN's William Denslow reports from New York.
The lawsuit alleges that Media Matters knowingly manufactured images to show ads next to white nationalist and neo-Nazi content. The suit claims that this was part of a strategy intended to drive advertisers away from X. A number of firms, including Disney, IBM and Apple, have halted ads on the social media site since Media Matters conducted its analysis. The non-profit describes itself as an information centre that monitors and corrects conservative misinformation in US media.
The minutes from the US Federal Reserve's last meeting give no indication that the central bank is preparing to cut interest rates. Details show that officials remain concerned that inflation could still increase. They expect to keep policies in place in an attempt to get inflation down to the Fed's goal of 2%. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
And we're back. Let's get back into Dumb Bleep of the Week. Okay, number 6. This was a fun one. Big deal here. Pink. Remember Pink?
Oh, yeah. She's got a great voice.
Pink will give away thousands of banned books at her Florida shows because you just can't get these books in Florida. The state has banned them. There's just nowhere you can get the books.
In fact, there's Border Patrol. Last time I drove into Florida, I had to pass through.
They check you for contra books when you're going through
security.
there. Yeah. Make sure you're not carrying when you're going through there. And they make sure you have
Amazon
a gun.
Looks at your location whenever you're ordering. Yeah.
And they send it directly to Ron DeSantis' email.
You can't even download an Audible.
No, Audible's banned in Florida. It doesn't even work when you go through there.
No, as soon as you cross the state line. I went to that Floribama bar when I went to Gulf Shores. You know, they're right on the border.
Yeah.
And it depended on what side of the bar I was on, my book would stop
Dude,
playing.
they're so strict. I was worried to go into the Florida-Georgia Line Bar here in Nashville because I didn't know what laws they follow in that place. You know, it's risky.
Exactly.
Risky going in there. Moral of the story is some schools have banned some books for like kids. I'm not saying that I totally agree with all of their book bans, but anyway, Pink is going to give away thousands of banned books to people who are at a show in public where they could still just buy the book. You know where she got the books? From local bookstores. She bought the books from local bookstores in Florida. The banned ones. That's where she got the books. It says so. Pink. She bought books in Florida to give away banned books in Florida. Pink has teamed up with the charity PEN America to take a stand against book bans in Florida, announcing on Instagram over the weekend that she plans to give away 1,000 banned books at each of her shows in the state on November 14th and 15th. Now, she's not giving away 1,000 different banned books. She's giving away 1,000 copies of 4 banned books. As a mom of 2 young readers, I can't imagine letting someone else decide what my children can and cannot read.
They don't get to!
The point is for the parents to be able to decide what their children can and can't read, by the way. Like, if you want your kid to read the thing, then go buy the book. You can still buy the book. Like, she proved it because she bought the books.
In Florida.
To support local bookstores. Another funny thing was, a follow-up in this, she posted, can you believe these books are banned in Florida? She posted, the following are some titles of books that have been banned from schools in Florida. Because some of her fans, some people were saying, well, you want kids to see pornography? And she's been responding with, no, I don't particularly like pornography, and I don't really want kids to see pornography. But tell me which one of these is pornography. Okay? To Kill a Mockingbird?
Now, why was that one banned?
That was banned by left-leaning people
because it said the N-word.
It said the N-word and had a white savior in the book, which was problematic. But there's a bigger problem.
Same with The Hate U Give. Same with Forrest Gump.
No, the thing is, look at the context added at the bottom. To Kill a Mockingbird, The Hate U Give, Forrest Gump, A Catcher in the Rye, The Hill We Climb, Girls Who Code, Atlas Shrugged, 1984. The Kite Runner, The Blue... You know what? Go to your shows and freaking hand out Atlas Shrugged to everyone. That's fine. Why don't you go ahead and do that? And I'll chip in money for this. Okay? Do it. Give all of your fans a copy of 1984, please. The Kite Runner, The Bluest Eye, Wrinkle in Time, The Diary of Anne Frank, The Fault in Our Stars, etc., etc. I've never read that one, but I'll have to look it up. This list has been proven incorrect. These books are not banned in Florida. In fact, some are on Florida's required reading list. Fact check. Fake list of banned books. Florida books circulates widely online. This was going around back when all the book banning was happening. There was a list of all these super popular books.
See, she's believing misinformation.
Exactly. She actually, and here's my thinking on this, she actually started this initiative because she thought that the fake list she saw was an actual list of banned books in Florida.
And didn't look it up.
And didn't actually
And neither
look
did her
to see.
team.
Yeah. And so
she has a whole team.
So they started this thing to give away books because she saw this completely ridiculous list of banned books and then was like, oh crap, those aren't banned, which she just found out a few days ago, I think, and now they're giving away these other The Hill We Climb, Girls We Code, and a couple of the other books. So
where's the part where she said she bought them from a local bookstore?
Oh, that was on I don't think I actually
was that in the article?
It was on the caption of one of the photos that I ended up taking after I made this presentation last night. So let me just double check here. Pink purchased all 2,000 books from local bookseller Books and Books. Each title has been banned in at least one Florida district, according to PEN America. Okay, now we're going to watch a video time for this, and we are going to be talking about the way of the world. And there's this video that was circulating. Got a couple million views here. Dr. Jebra Fauché says, this is a response to this video, says the circle of life can be summed up like this. You're born, you work, pay taxes, and then die. Following generations repeat the process. This girl gets it.
Work until we have to die just for the privilege of being alive? Huh? Like, we never asked to be born, but now we're obligated to do labor until we die. Huh? We have to work somewhere just to afford a house that we're never at because we're working to afford the house. Huh? Is the meaning of life to work and pay taxes and then die? On top of that, we also have to work to afford our vehicle to get to work in other places and afford gas just to get to work. And we also have to pay taxes for our roads to drive on to get to work. With the privilege of food, which we should just be able to have, pretty much just work and die. Let's not forget about life insurance just in case we almost die. And then we have to work for our children to go to school to learn how to work, so our children know how to work for their children so that their children can go to school and go to work. Like, somebody tell me that this is fair. Like, is it lazy to just want to enjoy life? Like, why do we have to work? Why?
Nobody's making you work.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Don't work.
Do less.
Don't get life insurance, because that's actually for when you die.
No.
Anyway.
Don't buy food.
Yeah. Don't drive on the roads. Don't do anything.
This is one of those great. Here's the problem. She says, like, one of the first things she says about things is like, we have to work to buy food, which we should just be able to have. How do you get the food?
You know the old saying, money doesn't grow on trees. Food actually grows on trees.
Food does grow on trees.
Why don't you plant yourself a food tree?
You got to work. It's like someone has to plant the tree and someone has to make sure it stays in good shape and bears as much fruit as it possibly can.
I mean, she could go back to the 16 and 1700s if she wants to.
You have to work to buy a car so you can go to work. Like, no, someone should just work so they can give you a car. So you're still saying people have to work because the things have to be created. So this goes back to how many years have we been saying this? What the socialist mindset is that I shouldn't have to work, but other people should have to work to supply things to me. But I shouldn't have to work. Well, what about that person who's making the car? They shouldn't have to work. So who's going to make the car? Well, someone else will have to. Well, then that means they have to work. Well, if we all have the right to not work, then none of us are ever going to have anything.
Everyone already has the right not to work.
Yeah. It's just
you don't have to work. Go pillage through the forest, hunt for your food.
Costco says start a garden, but guess what? That's also known as work. That takes time. You got to expend some effort to go out there. And that's what people used to have to do. And if you want to have your ridiculous face piercings and face tattoos and do all your tie-dye sealing in your car and stuff like that, then you're going to have to go work and produce things of value so you can get things of value from other people that they're producing. Because she didn't make that piercing or tattoo or face or anything like that. Like, other people had to produce this.
The car didn't come with that tie-dye ceiling.
It's just trade. That's all we're doing. You have something of value that you provide. Some people that don't make anything, their only thing of value that they have is their time and their labor. And they can offer that. They can hit some buttons for some time until the robot learns how to do it.
Yeah, and then this I think the real dumb though is this person, this Dr. Jebra Fauché. Fauci.
Fauché.
I don't think she's a real doctor.
No.
Anyway, she says...
But she has a white coat on.
The circle of life can be summed up like this. You're born, you work, pay taxes, and then die. Following generations repeat the process. This girl gets it.
Thanks, Doc. That's awesome.
I just feel like you can't explain basic concepts to these people. It's like, how do you get just...
You think people in socialist countries didn't have to be born and then work and then pay to their government or whatever and then die? You think that people before these governments or before we had capitalism or whatever as a system, do you think that those people weren't born and then had to work every day of their lives to survive until they died at the age of 38 from old age.
Only got a couple of years left.
I know. I'm
no
almost
wonder your
there.
shoulders falling apart.
I'm like
think it back to like the American Indians. I would say that that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, because they didn't really have like governments, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they still had tribes, they still had chiefs. They elected chiefs, or it was the chief's bloodline,
I
or
don't
whatever.
know how they got the chiefs.
So they still had some form of organization. I don't know if they had laws, but I'm sure they weren't okay with you just killing people
Probably
inside
not.
your own tribe
Mm-hmm.
for no reason.
Probably not.
So they probably had some form of law, some kind of moral code. But anyway, they didn't, I guess they didn't have jobs, except
Each person probably had something that
you had to
they
make
did.
clothes,
Yeah.
or you had to hunt, or you had to pillage other tribes for their stuff, or you had to trade with them. You had to make cups out of horns, or you had to go down to the river to get water, or you had to build fires, or you had to take care of the children, or you had to
also known as work.
You had to garden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you just weren't exchanging money for it, so it wasn't as efficient as what we have right now.
By the way, you could still go do those things if you don't consider that work.
Go do it.
Then you can go do that. Still do that in America.
But that's still work. It is.
It's technically still work.
The human condition requires some type of labor to survive.
Yeah.
From the time you're a child, like you must expend labor, or you'll just die. In fact, animals are the same way.
Well,
they
she
must
said,
go out
though,
and find
why
food
can't
and water.
we just enjoy life?
How are you going to enjoy it if you
First of
don't
all-
have a bunch of slaves out there making stuff for you?
First of all, you have to define enjoyment. What does enjoyment look like to you?
Some people enjoy being productive in society. I wouldn't enjoy it if I wasn't being productive.
I know. Everyone always talks about retirement. I'm like, I don't think I'll ever retire.
Why?
That sounds boring.
Like, you imagine if I come onto this podcast, I'm like, oh God, guys, I can't wait until the day where I get to stop talking to you guys. Like, no, I'm not talking about retirement.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
In fact, I think statistics show this too. Like, after people retire and they don't do anything, they
It's
die
worse.
much faster.
It's worse.
Yeah, because we need problems to solve. The world just doesn't hand you things. It would be amazing if you could just lay there in a house that built itself, with plumbing that built itself, and that the earth just magically brought those Christmas trees from Little Debbie. The earth just magically unwrapped that for you and placed it in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then moved your mouth
Oh, you just
to
lay
chew
there all the
for
time.
you, and then helped you swallow by rubbing. The earth just did that for you.
Yeah, but no,
You know?
you have to expend some energy to do that. Okay, we got to move on to Dumb Bleep. That was all number 7, whatever you want to call it. Number 8 is just going to be Nikki Haley, because she's been extra dumb this week. And I will admit, I'm embarrassed that I called her. In the first Republican presidential debate, she came out swinging like she was freaking Mrs. Ron Paul out there for like the first 5 minutes. And then it was all downhill from there. I got prematurely excited about Nikki.
Yeah.
Okay, but
she still leans authoritarian.
A crazy neocon authoritarian.
Yeah.
Is what she actually is. Here's one thing. We just talked about this yesterday, which is doing pretty well on YouTube, by the way. I forgot to tell you.
Oh, nice.
Thousands of TikTok users are siding with Osama bin Laden, who murdered 3,000 Americans. This is a prime example of how our foreign enemies poison social media to advance their evil agenda. Hashtag ban TikTok. Stop giving the Chinese Communist Party the ability to influence Americans.
Stop letting them read letters that people actually wrote.
Yeah. Now, to TikTok's credit, they have been removing some of these videos because they have terms of service against promoting terrorism. And so some of these have actually been getting removed. Not really, I don't want to say to their credit, but as a rebuttal to what Nikki Haley just said, they've actually been removing some of these things.
Which is ridiculous.
Personally, I think it's a good idea for people to be able to read this and understand why things happen. Okay, even if most of it was dumb.
Yeah, that way we know not to vote for you, Nikki. Thanks.
At this point, I'm like, she is a CIA plant. She has to be, because she's like, oh, people shouldn't be reading about why Osama bin Laden detailed all of our war crimes across the globe over decades. And sure, he was upset about Sharia law. Like, he was crazy when it comes to that whole part. And
he had
was
several grievances.
He had a lot of grievances. Some of them were correct. Some of them, like you.
Do you remember how many grievances we had in Declaration of Independence?
I forgot to mention the Declaration of Independence yesterday, but it sounded like the grievances that were listed out on that. And I wonder, what I wondered, I was going to mention yesterday, is if he meant to list it out like the grievances to the king, that kind of thing.
Very similar.
So,
except, TJ was writing, you sit up there in your high horse castle.
Yeah.
Looking over across the pond at us and our tiny sheds.
Osama bin Laden was like, Durka, Durka, Durka. Muhammad Jihad.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, Durka, Durka, Durka. So anyhow, that's one of the things from Nikki Haley. That's dumb. People should be able to hear these things. We've also got a few videos from her. Which one should we go towards? She's upset about Vivek Ramaswamy and the way that he acted in the recent debate. You know why he acted that way? Because she's a woman.
What happens? He comes out of the gate. He hits the female chair of the party. He hits the female anchor.
Unfortunately, not in the way that he should have.
On the platform. And then he hits me. And I'm not saying anything.
I ain't saying, I'm just saying.
But he might have a girl problem. I'm just saying he might have a girl problem.
Okay. So
he didn't actually physically hit anyone.
No. So he hates women. That's why he's attacking them. And then she has a new social media policy.
God, I hate this. Like, if you don't want to play the game, don't get in the game.
Yeah,
you can't go out there and be like, well, I can do the job just as well as any man, and then use the fact that you're a woman to say like, oh, well, you can't make fun of me because I'm a woman. No, you don't get special privileges. If you want to be equal, be equal.
Unfortunately, she wants to be. Now, she's like the media's pick for the Republican frontrunner these days. It seems like the establishment's pick for the Republican frontrunner, even though she's nowhere close. And do you really want your Republican, your conservative, your Republican Party frontrunner to be saying, you criticize me because I'm a woman, and you only criticize the person who runs the Republican Party who does nothing but lose because she's a woman, and that's the only reason.
And then I'm not going to say anything. But I'm going to say something.
Yeah, but I'm saying it.
Maybe he has a girl problem.
Not saying it, but
I don't know if the guy has a girl problem.
All right, here we go. No, he doesn't have a girl problem. He's rich. He can get whatever girls he wants.
Isn't he married?
Yeah, he's married.
He's married.
All right, here's her social media plan.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say. Accountability. And they know their.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
What a great idea for the party of the federal government has been weaponized against conservatives to come out and say,
we need to register
that you need to register everyone on social media. That way the government knows exactly who it is that's saying every single thing. When we have a government founded by people who used pseudonyms to write the Federalist Papers in the first place.
Yeah.
Because it's just... Good Lord. I hope no one's fallen for this mess. I really do.
It's one big party.
It is.
Republicans and Democrats, they're the same.
Okay.
You got Trump out there, free college. Nikki Haley wanting to register everyone.
You got to put your actual name on, God, and you got to verify
which
it
is going to disproportionately affect people of color because they don't have IDs.
Licenses. This is a racist policy.
This is.
It is.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, okay. Let's go on to the very last one. The Economist, which is a super old publication from the UK, says that Trump presents the world's biggest danger in 2024. Donald Trump does. So this is number 9. The Economist says former President Trump presents the world's biggest danger in 2024. The respected 180-year-old British newspaper said a second Trump term would be a watershed in a way the first was not. and the fate of the world will depend on the ballots of tens of thousands of voters in just a handful of states in the 2024 presidential election.
Like, how can that be democracy if only tens of thousands of people get to decide?
I don't know. The Economist said in its annual World Ahead Guide Thursday that another 4 years of Trump in the White House would be more damaging than his previous term. China and its friends would rejoice over the evidence that American democracy is dysfunctional. American democracy is dysfunctional if the people vote to elect Donald Trump in 2024. It's not dysfunctional if they don't vote to elect Donald Trump. I don't know if you're, picking up what they're laying down. Then Beijing could easily miscalculate over Taiwan with catastrophic consequences. And Russian President Vladimir Putin would have an incentive to fight on in Ukraine. Yeah, because he invaded Ukraine while Trump was in office. Yeah, you've got great evidence that when Trump was in office, the world was way worse.
And you have evidence that he's backing off now that Biden's president.
Yeah, definitely Biden is holding off Russia and Ukraine. That's great. Great idea, everyone. The greatest threat Trump poses is to his own country, The Economist argues. The moral authority of the U.S. would decline because America will have voted him in while knowing the worst. That is, that he is Hitler. I'm kidding. While pursuing his enemies, Trump will wage war on any institution that stands in his way, including the courts and the Department of Justice. The economy. That kind of makes me want to have him in office, honestly, but I don't believe that he would actually
He'll wage war against all of the corrupt regulators that aren't voted in.
You know why I don't think he'll actually do it? Because he didn't do it the first time. They spied on his campaign, and then he became president, and you know what he did? He signed on for a new agency, CISA, C-I-S-A, in 2018. That has done even more spying, and we just learned
probably because in the room they'll be like, "We promise we won't spy on you anymore if you just
We just learned from more Twitter files type stuff that CISA was one of the ones directing some of the censorship that was going on. And that was something that Trump signed off on after his freaking campaign was spied on. So no, I don't think Trump's going to do anything, honestly. And it doesn't matter if he does, if you keep the institutions in place anyway. They're just going to get replaced with evil snakes afterwards. And it'll be even worse. Regardless, 2024 is going to be fun for us on the podcast, for us as Americans.
You have so much anxiety.
Just so you know, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
If Trump wins, it'll be terrible because the left is the most terrible vermin that exists on this planet. Okay, and we're going to have to listen to them talk loudly
for 4
such
years. Bad losers.
Okay, and if Trump
the right isn't much better.
If Trump loses, then people on the right, I don't know what they're going to do. If he loses and he goes to prison, that might actually be the Civil War time that happens because they're going to try to stage a freaking prison break for him or something.
Are you calling?
They're going to try to break him out of his own house arrest.
Are you calling for a civil war?
No, I'm not calling for it. I'm saying January 6th was a cakewalk of all cakewalks, which was already kind of a cakewalk. But I think it'll get way worse. Regardless, it's going to be terrible.
This is a tough vote.
Yeah, so let's get the votes in.
Go sign up at the Fed Haters Club by going to goodmorningliberty.us. That's the new website Nate just designed. It looks good, man.
Thank you.
Good job.
Appreciate you.
Anyway, go to goodmorningliberty.us. That's the point of this. Or don't. I don't care either way. Go share the show with a friend. Or not. Again, I don't care. Vote in the Dumb Bleep of the Week. Or don't. I don't really care. Either way. Looks like Pink is going to win this one.
Yep.
Any mail-in ballots we got to count?
They come in tomorrow night.
Okay.
So
this might...
I'll let you know after I get done printing them.
This might change then. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And if you do or don't do all those things, Pink won. I'm calling it. Until Nate changes the vote tomorrow.
Pink is the winner.
Pink wins. Dumb Bleep of the Week.
Go to joingmail.com so you can vote every week on what the dumbest thing was. And make sure you find our daily podcast, Good Morning Liberty, on your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next week.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's
the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting